following is a special presentation of ABC Sports.
Washington Redskins head coach Joe Gibbs returns to Minneapolis, scene of one of his greatest triumphs in last year's Super Bowl. The Vikings head coach is Dennis Green, here in his first year leading the Vikings to the Central Division title. Mark Rippon was the MVP in last year's Super Bowl, but has struggled this year behind his injured line. The Vikings have played quarterback shuffle, but Sean Salisbury now runs the offense. Up next, from the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome in Minneapolis, Minnesota, it's the wild card games here on ABC as the Minnesota Vikings will host the Washington Redskins. Then at 4 o'clock Eastern time, from San Diego Jack Murphy Stadium, it's the Chargers in the playoffs for the first time in 10 years. They will host the Kansas City Chiefs. Hello once again, everyone, and welcome to Wild Card Saturday here on ABC. I'm John Saunders. We'll get you on the road to Super Bowl number 27. We decided a national championship in college football last night. Today we start things in the National Football League. I will not be alone here today. I am joined by one man who has played in, has been an assistant coach in, and has been a head coach in a Super Bowl. Sam White, now the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but he got to the big dance as coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, and we welcome you here. I said you've played in it, you've been an assistant coach in it, and a head coach. What does it take to get there?
Well, you got to be lucky like I've been to get those kind of things. But one thing they've prepared all year long for this chance, a chance to be in the single elimination tournament called the playoffs. And it doesn't matter whether you're a rookie coach like Dennis Green or the old veteran trying to repeat, that nervousness is going right now. The player wants to win this one.
There's no question the nerves are rolling us right now. We're going to take a look and see how they got into the playoffs. First of all, San Francisco will be the #1 seed. They'll have home advantage throughout the playoffs should they continue down the road to the Super Bowl. And today, Washington and Minnesota, that here on ABC. Philadelphia and New Orleans, that's tomorrow. San Francisco and Dallas with first-round byes. In the AFC, Pittsburgh will have home field advantage throughout the playoffs as things were really shook up last week on the final day of the season. Today, it's Kansas City and San Diego. You'll see that here at 4 o'clock Eastern time. Tomorrow, Houston and Buffalo. The byes going to Pittsburgh and Miami. Divisional playoffs, January the 9th and the 10th. And then the conference championship is on 18th. Then they move to Super Bowl number 27. That's in Pasadena, California. But we start things off in Indianapolis. That first, Frank Gifford will be there, part of the team calling. He joins us there now for
John, good to be with you. Coming up very shortly, Minnesota and Washington. These two teams met earlier, week 7, October the 25th, and they almost killed Mark Rippon, the Minnesota Vikings defense. They relied totally on Chip Lohmiller to win the game, 5 field goals, including a 52-yarder, a 49-yarder. And the one thing you can say about this game, if it was played like it was back October the 25th, and they get to the quarterback Mark Rippon like they did, well, it'll be hard to think that he's going to survive. They come in limping once again, does Washington. And right now we're going to return to John Saunders in New York. John?
All right, Frank, we'll get back to you in just a moment. Game number 2 of our doubleheader, Kansas City at San Diego. Kansas City won both meetings this year. Brent Musburger will call the game. And the big question is quarterback Stan Humphries for the San Diego Chargers. Will he be able to make the game? Brent?
John, thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you and Sam Weiss. As you can see, we've got a little light rain falling here in San Diego. This city very excited to be hosting its first playoff game in over a decade. Now to Stan Humphries. We watched him throw in practice early this week. Keep in mind, it is the left shoulder and not the throwing shoulder. You can see with the motion, no problem. Stan telling us repeatedly he will be in the Chargers lineup today. He will be their starting quarterback, and they're going to need him. Because take a look at how the Chiefs have handled them twice this year. In the opener, it was a bit of a blowout. The second game, San Diego feels they should have won it. But the veteran Nick Lowery nailed his 300th career field goal, and that gave the Chiefs a sweep. Now, the field here has been covered through the night, and again, we have light rain falling. San Diego a favorite by about a field goal. Back we go now to John Saunders.
Okay, Brent, we'll see you at 4 o'clock Eastern time for the kickoff of that game. As we told you, 2 wild card games will be played tomorrow, including New Orleans hosting Philadelphia. But the game you have to wonder about is Houston at Buffalo. The reason? Jim Kelly unavailable, knocked out of the game on the final week of the season early on here against the Houston Oilers. They'll face Houston again tomorrow, but Frank Reich will be the quarterback. As a matter of fact, the Bills are a hurting team. Jim Kelly is definitely out of this game. And look at the list of those that are questionable. Sam White tells me, though, if you're questionable, you're likely to be in the game. But keep in mind, even with these players in the game, they will be injured, Sam. And obviously it's going to be very tough. Houston doesn't like to play on the road. They don't like to play in cold weather getting out of the dome. But the injuries, can Buffalo overcome the injuries?
Well, that's the key to it. And really, Frank Reich stepping in for the injured Jim Kelly is a big plus for the Buffalo Bills. Marv Levy, one of the best in the business, no question about it, enters into the game a little bit more than normally coaches like to at this stage of the game. They like to do all their coaching early and let the players play late. But on the other side of the ball, Cornelius Bennett, if that guy can get in, questionable means hope you play. Right. If he can get in and play up to speed, then I think they got the chance.
All right, those games are tomorrow, but coming up, we have two games for you here in the wild card. The Washington Redskins, well, they go from the high of last year to the lows of this year. Injuries have really pasted the Redskins. We'll explain that when we come back.
To you by Edge Shave Gel. Ultimate closeness, ultimate comfort. That's the Edge.
Welcome back. The Washington Redskins owe a certain debt to the city of Minneapolis. After all, they won the Super Bowl there last year, and if not for a win by the Vikings last week, they would not be in the playoffs. But with all the injuries they have, it's going to be tough to repeat last year's performance in the Metrodome. January 26, 1992, the Redskins win their third Super Bowl title in less than 10 years. Washington had been dominant all season, starting with 11 straight victories and ending with the best record in the NFL, 14-2. Now, less than 12 months later, they're lucky to be in the playoffs at all.
I've sat at home 3 different times at 10-6. And so getting in is fantastic. Just to get in, you got a chance.
The roster may not be that different, but the Redskins are not at all the same team they were a year ago. Much of that has to do with the offense. Some statistics. They've scored 185 fewer points than last year. That's an incredible 11 points less per game. Mark Rippon has less than half the number of touchdown passes. Art Monk and Gary Clark, the two leading receivers, have 800 fewer yards. And Ricky Irvins has gone from averaging almost 5 yards per carry to just over 3.
We haven't blocked as well. We haven't thrown as well. We haven't called plays as well, which is me. I think a little bit of everything, all of us together.
But one number that may better tell Washington's story this season can't be found in the stat sheet. The Redskins injury report. 19 players on the Skins have missed 135 total games due to injury.
It's almost beyond belief what has continued to happen to the Redskins over the course of the season.
I've been here 22 years, and this is absolutely the worst year that I've experienced injury-wise, starting from our Dallas game in September up until our playoff game this week.
When you got somebody missing, that spot's empty. It's like having your son missing at the dinner table. Somebody's missing. It doesn't feel right.
Last year compared to this year is unbelievable. You know, when everybody was tight and everybody, you know, was working like a machine. And here, when they start falling, and it's hard to get it back together because you're not used to playing with each other.
You know, we had a tough schedule this year. We've had a lot of injuries to overcome. We're still in the playoffs. And once you get in the playoffs, you know, it's just one game at a time, and whoever wins it, wins it.
The Redskins trying to overcome the injuries up against the Minnesota Vikings next here on ABC. Our Monday night team will call the game. Let's go to the Metrodome now and join Frank, Al, and Dan.
Okay, John, a lot of sidebars to today's game, quite naturally. One of them being the two coaches that will walk the sidelines. Joe Gibbs has been there 12 years, guys, 4 Super Bowls. He's won 3 of them. His counterpart on the other side, Dennis Green, has come in. He is a genuine candidate for Rookie of the Year honors as a coach of the Year honors. He's done a great job. He swept out the old, brought in the new. Went from 8-8 to 11-5. A remarkable job.
Dennis Green is only 43 years old, Frank. Last year at this time he was the head coach at Stanford. He, of course, is a disciple of Bill Walsh. He's done a tremendous job, but he today coaches in his first postseason game, and the other guy, Joe Gibbs, coaches in his 20th postseason game. Earlier this week, each man talked about the other with a tremendous amount of mutual respect.
Joe Gibbs' best games have always come as an underdog fighter. I mean, he loves a challenge, and if you look at when people count him out, when people underestimate him, is when he shines the brightest, and that's just because he's a star quality.
You got to think about this now. I started out 0-5 my first year. This guy has won the division his first year in pro ball. It's a piece of cake. I think he is bright. I think he has a very good football mind. He's good with people. He's a good motivator, and I think he's hired very good people under him, which is a sign of a good leader. So what you have here is somebody that's doing a heck of a job, I think, and is a heck of a coach.
If Dennis Green has learned anything by looking at Joe Gibbs, fellows, and other coaches around the league, it's how to be decisive. And I think Dennis Green's best work came before camp even started, when he made the decision he needed new blood, and some of the old players were maybe being detrimental. So out went people like Millard and Browner, Wilson, people that he made a decision before camp even started. Joe Gibbs' best work, I think, has had to come during the regular season to overcome these injuries.
Okay, John, it's going to be the rookie coach, Dennis Green, against the longtime veteran, Joe Gibbs. It'll be interesting to watch. Let's go back to John in New York.
All right, gentlemen, we'll get back to you in just about 15 minutes' time. Sam, as you look at this game and you look at the Washington Redskins, here's a team that many people gave a chance to repeat. I mean, they've got everybody back, although Rippon held out. That hurt them. But now they have to be second-guessing themselves.
Well, a little bit. You know, when you go, you've won it all. Everybody wants you sitting at their banquet table that next off-season. They want you in their golf tournaments. They want you representing their companies and so forth. You get told over and over how good you are. And then you have your quarterback not in camp early, doesn't have a fast start when it happens, and then the injuries. You know, you open that media guide, and it says, hey, look at this football team, pretty darn good. Suddenly that media guide doesn't represent the players that are on the field every day, and the wins are tougher. You know, even when you have a good year, it's a tough year. But the Redskins have a great coach in Joe Gibbs, and they have fought through it, and they're in the tournament. It's a single elimination, and it's up to anybody now.
And as he said, he's missed it at 10-6. He's in at 9-7 and happy to be there. When we come back, we'll take a closer look at the Minnesota Vikings and the surprise of the year, Terry Allen out of their backfield. That and more when we continue on Wild Card Saturday here on ABC. We're just minutes away from the first wild card playoff game of the season. The Washington Redskins, defending Super Bowl champions, in Minnesota and on the road to take on the Vikings. That is coming up next. You know, the Minnesota Vikings made a lot of changes during the offseason, starting at the top with Dennis Green, their head coach. He started to clean house, but one of the big changes he made was in the backfield, where he decided to give Terry Allen the football. Allen has responded, and he's one of the biggest surprises of this season. In 1989, the Minnesota Vikings traded a truckload of draft picks and players to the Dallas Cowboys for running back Herschel Walker. He was to be the big playback that would carry them to the Super Bowl. Today, that trade is arguably one of the best in NFL history for the Dallas Cowboys. Following the '89 season, the Vikings used the 241st selection in the draft to choose Clemson running back Terry Allen. At first drafted as a potential backup for Herschel Walker, Allen has now taken the place of Herschel as the back the Vikings can ride throughout the playoffs. Allen broke Chuck Foreman's single-season rushing record. First-year head coach Dennis Green gave Allen the starting job from day one.
Yeah, he told me right before we went down to training camp that I was going in as the #1 running back, and just go out and work hard and do what I'm asked to do and just play good football.
Terry is a terrific back because he has vision. He has a very aggressive slashing style. He's an upfield runner. In other words, the first crack he sees, he'll hit it upfield. So he's always working on positive yardage, and he also can move the pile in a tough situation if he has to.
Green bought an insurance policy on Allen during the offseason in the form of four-time Pro Bowler Roger Craig. He played in 3 Super Bowls and was the first player in NFL history to gain 1,000 yards rushing and receiving in the same season.
Dennis Green gave me a call, and I thought it was a great opportunity for me to come here to, show some leadership.
Roger Craig is a guy that was rapidly approaching 8,000 yards as a career rusher, and a guy that had been in the playoffs for 9 consecutive years. So we wanted that element in the locker room.
It worked out good for me and Roger coming here because I used to idol Roger. He's a great running back, and I used to always watch him and argue about him being the best back. I was just happy to get the opportunity to play with him.
Terry's an outstanding individual. He works hard, and he's willing to listen, and that's what's gonna make him a great player, in the years to come.
The last time they met, Washington held Terry Allen to 51 yards. But still, it's the playoffs now, and home field advantage. The Vikings have that.
And let's take a look at all of it. 63,000 people, all of them pulling from Minnesota, loud crowd. Vikings coming off a big win. The Washington Redskins got beat last week by the Raiders. No quarterback controversy in Minnesota. They're all pulling for the guy in that game. And as you watched, I agree with Dan Deerdorf. The job that Denny Green did in selling his team on a new group was paid off. I watched the film there with Joe Gibbs. Watch the brow. They're a little bit worried. You know, when you see that brow quiver like that among all the interviews, watch out. I like Minnesota.
You like the Vikings. All right, we will find out momentarily. The Washington Redskins and the Minnesota Vikings coming up in just a moment. Get to Minneapolis in just a moment, but first, in case you missed it, last night the national championship was decided here on ABC in the Sugar Bowl. Tough night for Gino Torretta. Picked off 3 times, 21 points resulting off of the 3 interceptions. The guy who had the big day running was Derek Lassick. 28 carries, 143 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was the MVP. Dennis Erickson's dream of another national championship going down, and Gino Torretta to George Teague picks it off. Teague takes it in for the touchdown, and Alabama wins this one, going away 34-13. Gene Stallings not surprised.
We were hunted quite a bit this year, so that really doesn't bother me. Just like before this game, you know, people would ask me, I said, I'll take Alabama, you know, just simple as that. They said, well, you're underdog, and I said, listen, I'll take Alabama. I couldn't make it any plainer than that.
Gene Stallings takes Alabama. So do all 62 pollsters, voting Alabama #1. Florida State leapfrogs over Miami into the #2 spot. The top 10 has been released. The rest of the top 25 will be released tonight following the Peach Bowl. We're just about ready for the Redskins and the Minnesota Vikings. We'll get there in just a few minutes' time after these messages and a word from your ABC stations.
The Washington Redskins have survived a tenuous regular season, barely making the playoffs as a wild card. But one fact still remains. Their title defense begins today. The Redskins have slugged their way through a champion's regular season schedule, winning only 9 of 16 games. But the playoffs are a new beginning for Coach Joe Gibbs.
I think they're more enjoyable. I think there's a great anticipation, you know. I think there's something about being involved in something where it's winner take all.
The Metrodome, it's where they won the Super Bowl and where they defeated the Vikings earlier this year.
It's going to be more intense. We figure we can compete. We're in there now. We're excited about being in there, so we're going to let it all hang out.
As a wild card, the Redskins play an extra game, and if they continue to win, play every game on the road. But this veteran team has the experience of having won it all.
Could we win it? Yeah. Are we going to be tremendous underdogs in every game? Yeah. Is it going to take anything short of a miracle? No, it's going to be pretty much a miracle.
The Washington Redskins face the Minnesota Vikings in this NFC wild card playoff.
The NFC playoff show. We're gonna make you smile and get rid of your blues and do the NFL wild card boogie for you. I bet you're ready for some football. One team will get knocked off, the other team stays. It's the NFC wild card, the big one to play.
The Metrodome in downtown Minneapolis. The sub-zero temperatures have eased on the outside, around 20 degrees, warm and cozy on the inside, and it will be loud, as it always is here in the Metrodome. The Washington Redskins and the Minnesota Vikings get the playoffs underway. Hello again, everyone. I'm Frank Gifford, along with Al Michaels and Dan Deerdorf and all our Monday night crew, bringing you the first of the NFL playoffs. The Washington Redskins, the Minnesota Vikings. Sit back and wipe the pigskin out of your eyes from yesterday and enjoy. Minnesota, the Central Division champions of the NFC, 11-5, a turnaround from 8-8 a year ago. And they played probably their most impressive game last week when they knocked the Green Bay Packers out of the playoffs. They knocked the Washington Redskins back into the playoffs. The Redskins 24 hours earlier had lost to the Raiders. They thought it was all over. But here they are, back once again at the scene of their big triumph, their Super Bowl win of last January over Buffalo. That game 37-24, a big moment. But Al, this is a decidedly different team that played that Super Bowl 27 here last January.
Frank, last year, as you know, they had one of the great seasons in the history of the National Football League, 17-2 counting postseason. Everything went right, and they had very few injuries. As detailed in our pregame show, a lot of injuries during the regular season, and it continues. Darrell Green, the great cornerback, is not even here. Ricky Irvins, their number 2 running back and their 3rd down back, won't suit up today, and he, of course, backs up Ernest Biner, who has a bad back himself. So the Redskins are hobbled, but what else is new as far as Washington is concerned? They're used to it. Keep in mind, though, Joe Gibbs coaches this team. 12th year in the league. In postseason play, Joe Gibbs is an incredible 15-4. But as is the case with Washington, almost week after week, their fortunes will hinge on the right arm of Mark Rippon. At best, he had a mediocre season. That's being generous. If he's hot today, look out. Washington will be tough to beat. And they face Minnesota, Dan. Interesting, this weekend, 4 wild card games, and every one of them is a rematch of a regular season confrontation.
And by now, everybody knows that Washington won that first rematch, Al, and they did it without scoring a touchdown with 5 field goals. Where Minnesota thinks they really made a mistake in that game was they allowed Washington to get out to a 12-0 lead and had to play catch-up. And if they've talked and worked on anything all week long, it's getting off to a fast start. Let's not allow the Redskins to dictate the pace. Now, of course, offensively for Minnesota, the wild card is Sean Salisbury, making only his 5th start in the National Football League, and of course his first playoff start. What will he do under pressure? The game within the game, what I want to watch the Viking front 4 against the Redskin offensive line. Rippon took a terrible pounding when they played the first time. If they do it to them again, I don't think the Redskins can beat the Vikings without protecting their quarterback.
And here we go from Minnesota with the Vikings to receive the opening kickoff. Lohmiller puts it in the air, and Darren Nelson, the longtime Viking running back and kick returner, takes it back to the 21-yard line. The Minnesota Vikings with Sean Salisbury, who guided 4 seasons ago the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to the Grey Cup title in the Canadian Football League. Playing today the most meaningful game of his NFL career, clearly. Allen, the running back, Jones, Carter, and Carter, the wideouts. Chris Carter back from a broken collarbone, Jordan, the tight end. And there is the fully ripened offensive line, Zimmerman and McDaniel on the left side, each going to the Pro Bowl. From the 21-yard line, they begin with Allen, the tailback in the eye, taking it out to the 24-yard line. Brad Edwards, the safety, comes up to stop him. It'll be 2nd and 7, and let's take a look at the Redskin defense. A base 4-3, man, Buck, Johnson, and the rookie Shane Collins, the right end. Wilbur Marshall having a great year going to the Pro Bowl. Gouveia in the middle, Andre Collins, the right linebacker. A.J. Johnson and Martin Mayu, back off injured reserve, are the corners. Copeland and Edwards are the safeties. Again, Darrell Green not even here with a bruised heel, the great cornerback. On 2nd and 7, they give it to Allen again, and he probes the middle for a 5-yard pickup. Terry out to the 29-yard line, and that'll set up a 3rd and 2.
Al, you touched on something very important for the Washington Redskins. That is having Mayu back, and particularly after losing Darrell Green, because also back, as you also touched on, a real fine wide receiver for the Vikings, Chris Carter, their leading receiver, and he has missed 4 games with a broken collarbone. And he is back, ready to go, and that could be an interesting matchup today.
3rd and 2 from the 29-yard line on the game's opening series. And on an end around is Joe Johnston, a former Redskin, a play they like to run a lot normally with Anthony Carter. And he is very close to a first down as he takes it out to the 31-yard line, close enough for a measurement, as Gordon McCarter, today's referee, calls for the change to be brought in.
The Vikings use a lot of reverses, perhaps more than anyone in the National Football League. It's part of their running game. And as you can see, Johnson diving and lunging, and as you can hear, for enough yardage to pick up the first down.
By about half an inch. It was a good spot for the Vikings, and you're right about their misdirection, and that's true of everything they do, Frank. Special teams and even on defense. This is a team that is built on speed. Jack Burns, the man on the right, the offensive coordinator, the man on the left. Tony Dungy, their defensive coordinator. Every concept, every attack is planned on being faster and quicker than their opponent.
First down from the 31-yard line. They stay on the ground, and this is sliding off and very close to a first down. A 10-yard gain, or a little short of that, as Brad Edwards comes up to make the stop.
Well, you had a good look at Terry Allen breaking to the outside. One of the reasons they could let Herschel Walker go last year is part of the house cleaning here. Also on the way out was Keith Millard, Joey Browner, Wade Wilson. As Dennis Green made a statement early on, he just bangs into the 7-hole over on the left side, breaks it out to the outside. Good pickup.
You'll notice every one of the Redskin defensive linemen and linebackers had a purple jersey in his face. And that's what allowed Allen to bounce out of there. Nobody from the Washington side of the ball even was able to get a hand on him, much less bring him to the ground, and it's another Viking first down.
10-yard pickup. Allen's carried 3 times for 18 yards. Salisbury has yet to throw a pass. First down at the 41-yard line.
Salisbury having a tough time getting the plays in from the sidelines. He's walked over twice now to the sidelines. They hustle him back in. The play clock ticking down on him.
Well, his little heart's got to be going pitter-patter.
I think it's right on his chops, wouldn't you believe?
Play clock is down to 3 at the snap, and again they give it to Allen. The minimal gain, he takes it to the 43-yard line. It'll be 2nd and 8. Jason Buck in on the tackle. 3 minutes into the game, no score. If the Vikings win the game, they go to Dallas next week. If Washington wins this game, they go to San Francisco in the next round.
Good luck if you're Washington, right? They would love to make the trip.
2nd and 8. Minnesota at the 43 on the game's opening drive. And Salisbury's first pass is a bad one behind Chris Carter. And again, these two have had very little chance to hook up because since Salisbury earned the starting job, Carter's been on injured reserve.
Exactly, out with that broken collarbone, but this is just a bad pass by Salisbury. Plenty of time to set up. Had a good block over in the left side from Gary Zimmerman. It was keeping Shane Collins low where he couldn't get his hands up, and he just threw a bad pass.
He sure acted like he expected Carter to break to the sidelines. But at least he's got that first pass away, and it wasn't intercepted. Again, to reiterate, his first playoff exposure and such limited experience in the NFL to be in this position leading a division champion.
On 3rd and 8, off the play fake. Good protection, and he throws a strike for a first down to Chris Carter at the Redskin 43-yard line.
Well, perhaps this is what the offense has lacked while Chris Carter's been out of it. He is a big playmaker for the Vikings, has been ever since he came here. Buddy Ryan getting rid of him in Philadelphia. He turned into a major star here. This is not an easy ball to catch. It's thrown behind Carter. He spins around and covers it up as he goes down. That was a ball thrown behind Carter and a good catch.
Boy, Mayhew had his hand right in front. That's the ball barely missed it.
That was a 14-yard pickup, and Salisbury going deep for Carter again. Caught at the 1-yard line.
Oh, wow. I mentioned about Carter coming from Philadelphia, cut by Buddy Ryan, and that's what he did for the Eagles. 11 touchdowns in that season of '89. Ryan let him go, and he made many of them just like that by going up and taking it away from a defender.
Kirk Loudermilk, the center, gives Carter a headbutt on the 1-yard line and almost knocks him out the back of the end zone. Denny Green all week. We have to get off to a quick start. We can't allow the Redskins to dictate to us the pace of the game. I would classify this as a quick start.
That's a great catch by Carter. Mayhew, great position on him. He just went up and took it away.
Randall McDaniel, the guard, is the fullback in the eye, and he leads the way for Allen's touchdown. '79-yard drive, the big play, the 42-yard pass to Carter. The drive began with a measurement on third down for a first down. They converted, and they keep on going and lead 6-zip.
Well, what this drive also started with, Alan Frank, was a number of successful running plays. They hammered away for a couple first downs on the ground, exactly the way you'd like to get started. Soften things up in the middle and then throw the ball. And Salisbury, whatever jitters he had, are long gone as he stakes his team to the 7-0 lead.
Wad Rebays for the point after. Allen caps off this long drive, 79 yards in 4 minutes and 55 seconds. Minnesota 7, Washington nothing. Guiding the Vikings, and Allen making it pay off at the end. Chris Carter, the big man on the other end of Sean's passes. Wad Rebays to kick off, and Washington will get the ball for the first time with Minnesota leading 7-0. Brian Mitchell is back to take it in at the 8-yard line. And good Viking coverage. A 9-yard run back up to the 17-yard line. Brent Novoselsky makes the stop. ABC's NFC wildcard playoff game is being brought to you by Pontiac and your nearby Pontiac dealers. We are driving excitement. By cold filtered Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old and into the cold. By the Business Services Division of MCI. And by Delta Airlines. We love to fly, and it shows. Mark Rippon in the Skins from the 17-yard line. And this is Ernest Biner going nowhere. Loss of 2 at the 15. The Vikings very quick off the line, as they normally are. Mark Rippon, a fabulous year last year, Super Bowl MVP, a whole other story. 13 TDs, 17 interceptions this season. Now he's got Biner with that bad back and no Ricky Irvins to back up Biner. Clark, Monk, and Terry Orr with Middleton in the double tight end setup. Lachey, Brown, McKenzie, Schlereth, and Simmons, the offensive line. Ricky Sanders, by the way, is in uniform. He missed last week's game. The wide receiver with the bad ankle can play today. On 2nd and 12, this is Biner up to the 20-yard line, and it'll be 3rd down and 7. McMillan makes the tackle. Let's take a look at the Viking defense with that great front four. Noga, Thomas, Randall, and Dolman playing back to his form of a couple of seasons ago. Jenkins, Del Rio, a tremendous Plan B pickup from Dallas and Merriweather. Lee with McMillan. McMillan will go to the Pro Bowl. And then Scott and Glenn. Bensie Glenn last week, 3 interceptions in the game against the Packers here. Ricky Sanders is in the game. That is Ricky number 83, setting up slot right and now in motion and setting up slot left. And on 3rd and 7, John Randall will contend he was induced across the line and probably lose the argument. Well, maybe not.
Before the snap, defense, 5 yards, still down.
He wasn't induced.
Now, the Vikings get a lot of these calls. If you follow them over the season, they are a quick football team. They play the gaps. All 4 of them, Dolman and Randall and Thomas and Noga, they hit gaps. Denny Green's philosophy is we're not that big, as is Tony Dungy, the defensive coordinator. We're not that big. Let's hit the gaps and hit them as quickly as we can. They try and anticipate the count, and they get a lot of offsides called against them.
3rd and 2 at the 25-yard line. 7-0 Minnesota. 8:08 to play in the first quarter. Rippon, who passes a lot on 3rd and short, throws to the 31-yard line, and it is caught. Great catch by Gary Clark, going to the turf to pull it in, covered by Lee.
And an excellent throw by Rippon. Down to the inside. No chance of that being intercepted, and that's the kind of a pass Mark would like to start this game on. Watch the throw. Watch how crisply it's delivered. There is no possibility of that being intercepted. Did it touch the ground? That's a great catch by Gary Clark. That is an excellent catch by Clark.
Terry Orr lining up in the backfield and going in motion and providing some leverage. Instead, it is Mark Rippon to the 32-yard line.
Safe to say a blown play.
Yes, I would say.
I mean, Joe Gibbs is fanciful with his offense, but they got a little more fanciful with him.
Yep.
Absolutely. You knew I was in trouble when Moore got all confused in there.
You see that hand sign right there? That's what that play looked like. Fingers going in all different directions.
Gary Conklin, who is the backup quarterback. They carry 3 quarterbacks to the Redskins. Jeff Rutledge is number 3. It is 2nd down and 10 at the 32. 7-0 Minnesota, 6:40 to go in the opening quarter. Here's Biner to the 35-yard line. It'll be 3rd down and 7. Del Rio and Thomas converge on the tackle.
You can see, I think, a pattern from Washington's point of view. When they are going to run, they would prefer to run to their left side behind number 79 there, Jim Lachey. Chris Dolman, by far and away the best pass rusher of the Vikings, but they feel that the matchup against the run, Lachey against Dolman, the Redskins believe favors them.
Well, you'd rather go at him, have him pursuing it too.
3rd and 7 at the 34-yard line. That's Monk in motion. Rippon steps up, gets the pass away, and it's caught, and it's very close to a 1st down, but appears to be a little short. Art Monk came down with it. Carl Lee with the coverage up at the 42-yard line. Chris Dolman that time putting the pressure on Rippon.
Rippon calculated this just right to get rid of it. Dolman against Lachey just gives him a little bump. He gets around him, and he just about flicks it out of the hand of Rippon.
He was so far outside Lachey, easily 8 to 10 feet, and you can see on that replay that Chris got the head start. He got the jump on the ball. Very awkward for a tackle to have to block somebody who's 2 places removed, and you see that completion is good for the 1st down. But the farther away Dolman gets from Lachey, the more difficult it is for Lachey to block him.
I'll tell you, there's some gut checks going on too for these Washington Redskins out there. Biner is playing hurt. Let's take a look again. Dan said way outside of Lachey, and he's very athletic, this big man Lachey. You see that a few offensive left tackles you find doing that, wouldn't you say, Dan?
Yeah, I agree. A lot of guys never even would have made it to the intercept point, would have never even made it to the corner to get into Dolman's legs.
They gave Monk a good spot on that last play, a 7-yard gain. They convert 1st down at the 42-yard line, and Rippon fires for a 5-yard pickup to Ricky Sanders, who was bothered by a gimpy ankle. Carl Lee with the coverage on the play. But Ricky Sanders is going to be a very important man for them today, because Monk has been not as much a part of their passing offense as in years past, and Ricky's a big play guy.
Well, he's a 3rd down guy. He's got more 3rd down receptions than anyone on this team. There is Monk, who play the inside position where Sanders ordinarily is if Sanders has to leave the game. But Sanders, another one of these Redskins playing hurt today. The season's over. If they lose, you may as well let it go.
Rippon is 3 for his first 3. And they give it to Biner. And Biner is stopped after a pickup of maybe 1 by Mike Merriweather. It'll be 3rd down and 5 at the Metrodome, where indoors the temperature is 66. And outside, they told us at kickoff it was 20.
And that's a heat wave here.
Yes.
We've been here since New Year's Eve, and the temperature has rarely gone above 0.
Pass situation now for the Redskins. Now watch that Viking front 4. We talked about it already, how quick they are off the ball. Anticipating pass, they'll just be blowing through there.
3rd down and 5 with Sanders in motion. 4-man rush. Biner makes the catch and is buried by Lee, who's been in on a lot of plays already at the 49, and it's 4th and 3.
Well, the Vikings have given up perhaps more passes underneath than any team in the league. Certainly right up there with the league leaders, but they are good tacklers. They let you make the completion, and then they shut it down, and that's what happened right there, short of the 1st down.
Well, Carl Lee, who's been a Pro Bowl player in the past, I don't think is used to having this much business come his way this early in a ball game. They have come right at Carl Lee, and he answered that one.
Kelly Goodburn, who averaged less than 40 yards a kick this season. Anthony Parker back to receive. And that is a 42-yard punt taken by Parker at the 9. And a 12-yard run back to the 21, run out of bounds by Johnny Thomas. We have 3:04 remaining in the 1st quarter in this NFC wildcard game in Minneapolis. 7-0 Vikings.
Away with the crown. Now these two rivals meet in Game 2 of our playoff doubleheader today on ABC Sports.
This is the 5th time that the Skins and the Vikings have met in postseason play. They're 2-2, and as you can see, each time they've met, the team that has won the game has advanced to the Super Bowl, including as recently as '87, when Washington beat Minnesota and wound up beating Denver and San Diego in the Super Bowl. This is Roger Craig on his first carry, and he is run out of bounds by Andre Collins. This ABC Sports exclusive is being brought to you by Pontiac and your nearby Pontiac dealers. We are driving excitement by cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old and into the cold. By the business services of MCI and by Delta Airlines. We'd love to fly, and it shows.
They use Roger Craig as a little more than just relief for Terry Allen. He's had a pretty good year, over 400 rushing, 22 receptions. Very good receiver out of the backfield, as you can recall from his great days with the 49ers and a year ago with the Raiders. Very effective out of the backfield as a receiver.
2nd and 10. Fake to Craig. And Salisbury going deep. And there's contact, but incidental on a pass intended for Anthony Carter. Picked off by Mayu. And Mayu with a great run back out of bounds at the 32-yard line. Gary Zimmerman guided him out as he took it all the way back to just about the line of scrimmage.
You could see that Anthony Carter lost his footing about 3 or 4 yards before the pass got there and allowed Mayhew to basically just watch right here. Watch Carter loses his footing. And so uncontested, Martin Mayhew is able to intercept that pass. So a big return sets Washington up in their best position.
Salisbury throwing the interception. The man on the right, Jack Burns, was a Redskin assistant last year and then got the job as the offensive coordinator here when Dennis Green took over as the head coach. That was a 44-yard interception return, and Ernest Biner on first down takes it to the 31 with 2:15 to play in the opening quarter. 7-0 Minnesota.
That's a good look there at Henry Thomas, how he got across the line of scrimmage. They still play defense the way Floyd Peters, who's the defensive coordinator in Tampa now, used to coach it. He told his front four, I want you to rush the passer every down. And if by chance you happen to run into the guy who's carrying the ball, well, then that's a bonus. That's still the way this Viking front four attacks the line of scrimmage.
On 2nd and 8, this is Monk on a sweep, and he takes it to the 27-yard line. Mike Merriweather in on the tackle. You know, you wonder if they may or may not use more of those types of plays today, especially in the absence of Ricky Irvins and all of the pressure on Ernest Biner. And we can tell you following this one, on to San Diego we go. Brent Musburger and Dick Vermeil are there today as the Chiefs take on the Chargers.
Well, that time Monk worked right out of the backfield. Again, as pointed out, Biner hurting. Ricky Irvins with a very bad ankle, not dressed. Could see a lot of that.
3rd and 4 at the 27-yard line. That's Ron Middleton in motion. And it's Ernest Biner.
That's an incomplete pass.
Incomplete pass. A forward pass, and it's simply an incomplete pass. And the Redskins can't convert, and will have to settle for a field goal attempt. The pressure that time put on by Al Noga, number 99.
Shame of it is for Washington. Look at Biner and how open he is.
Oh.
He's got the blocker out front and Ray Brown. And it's hard to conceive that Biner wouldn't have picked up enough yardage for at least the first down. So
and he just took his eyes off it. Rip and laid it in there just soft as a pillow, and he just would look for his next move in the run, took his eyes off the ball and lost it.
44-yard field goal attempt for Chip Lohmiller, who is terrific on artificial turf and terrific in this stadium. He played his college ball at the University of Minnesota, and Chip Lohmiller loves the Metrodome.
He was 32 of 37 here as a collegian, 5 for 5 back in October. That's 6 for 6 this year. Regular season, 5, and now this one.
There it was during the career of Chip Lohmiller on grass fields, 40%, but you put him on this stuff, and better than 4 of every 5 from 40 through 49 yards.
His 44-yarder has made it 7-3 Minnesota, and his kickoff is short, taken at the 10 by Darren Nelson, who comes back to the 23-yard line. Nelson getting in kind of an extra year here. He might have gone to Stanford as an assistant coach for Dennis Green had Dennis not taken this job and remained out west. Well, there was one violent collision on that kickoff return, and there is a Redskin that is
Johnny Thomas, I believe, is still
down on the carpet. Johnny Thomas.
Yeah, you're right about Dennis Green and Stanford. Of course, now Bill Walsh at Stanford. They just won their bowl game. Darren Nelson, a Stanford grad, and wrapping up his 11th year in the National Football League. And for a guy 5'9" and 186 pounds, it has been a remarkable career for Darren Nelson. This guy right here, fascinating study, Dennis Green. He has an interesting philosophy, Frank, talking about his defensive approach when he was visiting with us yesterday, talking about how the way he wants his team to be aggressive. He believes that if you're aggressive, you win. If you're not aggressive, he used the term victim. He said, if you're not aggressive, you're a victim. And he said, I will never have a football team that is a victim. And that's certainly the way they attack it, both offensively and defensively. And when you look at him, you don't get that initial sense of the fire that burns inside Dennis Green.
Johnny Thomas,
competitive
that's
man.
good to see.
Yep.
Hey, he's so decisive when he decides to do something. That's the first thing he came in here. He looked around and said, we got some problems here. Let's get rid of them. And let's bring in some people that will get this thing done for us. There are 18 different players on this roster from the 8-8 team of a year ago. 5 Plan B, 5 rookies, and they're 11-5. So, you know, he's done something right, and he's done it quickly.
It's also a small football team. They are not a big group of earth movers like you see in a lot of other NFL teams.
Small for the most part and speedy. From the 24-yard line on first down, a fumble, and Salisbury has to cover it up at the 21, and he and Roger Craig couldn't get together on the handoff. So Roger Craig starting this series as he did the last.
This team reminds me of one other ball club size-wise.
I was going to say the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dallas Cowboys, and toss in the 49ers.
Lots of speed, a lot of quickness.
Yeah.
And that ball was lost as he came away from the center to Salisbury. Loss of 3, 2nd and 13 at the 21. 25 ticks remaining in the first quarter. Vikings up 7-3 as Roger Craig fights for a gain of 4. He takes it to the 25. Jason Buck makes the tackle on what should be the final play of the first quarter. How have teams that played in domes fared in terms of going to the Super Bowl? They've never been there. Look at that through the years. And you say, what about the Vikings? They've been there 4 times, but each time they went, their home was old Metropolitan Stadium. No dome team has ever gotten to the Super Bowl. It's the end of the quarter. It's 7-3 Vikings. And back we come with our wild card playoff game after this message and a word from our ABC station. The Metrodome in Minneapolis. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, and Dan Deerdorf start the second quarter. Vikings on top, 7-3. It is 3rd and 9 for Minnesota at their own 25-yard line. And Salisbury finds the open man. That's Carter making the catch for a first down at the 46. Chris Carter, tackled by Brad Edwards. Got good position on him. Wilbur Marshall put the pressure on Salisbury, who hung in there and got it to Chris Carter for a 21-yard gain. Carter just driving downfield. The Redskins in the zone defense. Carter reads it. Watch him kind of ease up here. Sets up. Salisbury reads it with him. Perfect delivery. Big pickup. And what a difference this Minnesota Viking offense is with Carter. Look how he reads that zone. Salisbury right with him and delivers it.
Kudos to Gary Zimmerman that last play. Excellent blocking on Marshall.
Here's Craig going nowhere. And Tim Johnson.
He looks hurt. He acts like something bothered him on that.
Made the tackle, but
he hobbles back into the huddle.
Richie Pettibone breathing easier. And our wild card playoff game is being brought to you by Chrysler Plymouth, a division of the Chrysler Corporation. Terry Allen comes back in the game. There is Richie Pettibone, the defensive coordinator, as it were, for the Redskins in the main, a lot of people think should someday be an NFL head coach. I'm one of them. But they've been saying it for a long time. And on 2nd and 10, the pass is incomplete. A little too low for Chris Carter, who's already caught 3. Martin Mayhew with the coverage. Richie's been around 15 years with the Redskins. Before that, 14 years as a player. And Salisbury threw that in there low. I mean, he did it deliberately, and it was a tough catch, but one that certainly could have been caught by Carter. And it was a good delivery by Salisbury. 3rd and 10, Minnesota perfect thus far on 3rd down conversions. Pressure. And Allen makes the catch, but Wilbur Marshall is right there to wrap him up after a gain of 3 at the 49-yard line. And that'll create Minnesota's first punt of the day.
And that's really the defensive alignment I think Pettibone would rather see. Wilbur back in the field where he can make plays, get an interception, knock a ball loose, and going with 4 other people rushing the quarterback. Wilbur Marshall is a good pass rusher, but to me, he's a more valuable asset when he's roaming in that middle ground where he can make a big play. Harry Newsom, 2nd in the league in punting this year to only the Oilers' Greg Montgomery, sends it down to the 17-yard line. And this is Brian Mitchell. Mitchell across the 50. And Mitchell is brought down from behind at the 28-yard line as Jake Reed, the wide receiver out of Grambling, saves a touchdown. Well, we know that Reed has got some speed now. Mitchell, a gifted return man, a very valuable part of this Washington Redskin team, and you saw why there. A little step now, back to the inside, spots the gap, kicks it into another gear, gets away from the punter, and then watch Reed run him down. Well, if Newsom did one thing, he went to the left side and forced Mitchell back to the middle of the field. The decision by Newsom to attack from that side, he didn't know it at the time, but it ran Mitchell back towards Reed. Oh, Reed's got some speed, though. That was a no contest in a match race there. That was a 34-yard Newsom punt and a 54-yard run back. First down, Washington at the 29-yard line. Biner going nowhere. Carlos Jenkins first to greet him at the line of scrimmage, number 51. Goldman also there. Jenkins, one of the many changes in this defensive unit for the Vikings from a year ago. They moved Randall from defensive end, John Randall to the defensive tackle from defensive end. They brought in Carlos Jenkins, and they had to get him some playing time, so they moved Mike Merriweather over to the weak side, put Jenkins on the strong side. So many changes, and they have been so effective. 2nd and 10, 12:05 to go in the half. Vikings on top 7-3. Monk in motion. Rippon with good protection and has it picked off a deflection, and up to the 36-yard line goes Todd Scott. Carl Lee created the interception. He was the Viking who got his hand on it, and Todd Scott runs it back to the 36-yard line. Boy, this one has to puzzle you if you're Joe Gibbs, you're a Redskins fan. Lee was right in the line of sight of Mark Rippon. There he is, right in the line of sight. He throws it right into his hand. Anytime Scott intercepts a pass, all Viking fans think back to October 4th. It was 20-0 Chicago at that point. Scott intercepts the Harbaugh pass off the audible that turned Chicago's season south and sent Minnesota's season north. 2 weeks later, they killed Chicago in Chicago, and they were on their way. And here is Terry Allen on first down after the turnover up to the 40-yard line. Well, the last one was a gift from Carl Lee, because Carl Lee had the ball right in his chest. It should have been Lee's interception, and instead he mishandles it, and it pops right up into the air, and the alert Scott picks it up. But look at this. Look at Mark Rippon. Apparently, it almost looks like he's staring at Carl Lee. Lee doesn't handle it, and Scott is there for the INT. But again, that was an excellent look at the Washington quarterback staring right at number 39, Carl Lee. I don't know what Mark must have been thinking. On 2nd and 7 from the 40. And that pass is picked off by Brad Edwards.
And Edwards to the 33-yard line after faking the lateral and holding on, and Washington with a big break, and Wilbur Marshall with the pressure that time on Salisbury.
Yeah, Wilbur came on a blitz up the middle, and he flushed Salisbury, and this was the type of a motion that Richie Pettibone wanted to create. Salisbury is a classic sit-in-the-pocket quarterback. They want him on the move.
Look at
that's
Edwards.
a ball that just sails on him, Frank.
Great hands. Now, he almost laterals the ball off to Mann here. Mann standing there, hey, I want it. And he very wisely tucks it away.
But that's a relatively easy completion to Chris Carter. That ball just floated and sailed on Sean Salisbury. But that's where the Redskins want him. They want him moving, flushed from the pocket.
Edwards intercepted 6 during the regular season. First down at the 33. And it's a 2-yard gain for Ernest Biner. Down to the 31-yard line. It'll be 2nd and 8 with 10:55 to go in the half.
That is about the 5th time that the Redskins have opened up a first down with a run to the left side, and they are not getting a lot out of it. There's Lachey, 79. A good job of getting up underneath Dolman, but then Dolman doesn't give more than a yard. And it's a negligible gain of only 2 yards on first down. It's a pretty stout Viking defensive line on first down so far in this game.
On 2nd and 8, that's Ron Middleton in motion out of the full house backfield. And the pass is low and incomplete, intended for Ernest Biner. It'll be 3rd down and 8.
Frank,
I don't know.
That's just a horrible pass by an NFL quarterback.
You almost have to think the confidence is just gone. He's been abused ever since he reported late to camp this year. Nothing ever got in sync. The same people were there early in the season, then the injuries came, but there's no way to explain that one. There's no way to explain the one that Lee deflected into Scott for the interception. It's just lack of your own personal confidence, I would have to say.
That's Torrey Conklin, the backup Redskin quarterback. He's number 2 in line.
3rd down and 8 at the 31-yard line. And Rippon guns it incomplete, and a flag comes down at the 18. Art Monk, the intended receiver, and Todd Scott gets up and can't believe he saw the flag.
Well, he might believe it when we run the replay. Monk is complaining, too, that he was hit early.
Pass interference, number 38, defense, automatic first down.
Del Rio is saying it shouldn't be pass interference because the pass was deflected.
They're all looking up at the scoreboard, but Scott either arrived absolutely perfectly or just a fraction early, and he was bitterly complaining. Was it deflected first? Let's take a look at that first. No, it wasn't. Now Scott makes the contact, not a definitive angle to see it from there. Let's take another look. This will give you a good view. Did he hit him early? I think he did.
Oh, that's I think that's the type of a play that Todd Scott and Tony Dungy would tell him to make every time. I think that'll get flagged fewer times than it won't.
At the 18-yard line, here's Biner, and Biner throwing against the grain, and it is picked off, but out of the end zone was Vincey Glenn. He came down with it, and one official not making the call. The other with a better view said he was out of the end zone.
Biner should have pulled that ball down and run with the football. They didn't buy that at all. They're still talking about it, but I think that's way out of the back of the end zone.
Now, the one official who didn't make a call obviously felt that he didn't see enough. All right, watch number 25. There's the right, and the left is out of bounds. That's a good work by an officiating crew. The one who didn't see it well enough didn't make the call. The one who did came up. He was decisive. Call him out of the back of the end zone.
2nd and 10 at the 19-yard line. 10-12 to go in the half. 7-3 Minnesota. Rippon incomplete. Good coverage on Gary Clark, and a flag is down back at the 24-yard line.
One of the things the Vikings do is create a lot of holding calls against opposing offensive lines, and that's what they're hoping for.
Illegal formation, offense.
Well, do you back them up or do you take the down?
Jim Hannafin, the offensive line coach and the Renaissance man of that staff.
Yeah, you decline it. That's what you do.
Illegal formation, 2 eligibles up on the line of scrimmage on the left side of the line. The penalty is declined. 3rd down.
The end man on the line of scrimmage is eligible. And in the Redskin formation, the tight end was supposed to be eligible. Right here, this guy needed to be back a yard. As you can see, 2 eligible players are both on the line at the same time.
It's 3rd and 10, and it's caught at the 4-yard line by Art Monk for a 1st down, and it will be 1st and goal.
And again, the zone defense, they stayed in it, even deep in their own territory. Monk came all the way from the left side, took it down deep, brought it across, and that time Rippon, how do you explain it? That was a perfectly thrown ball. Had a lot of smoke on it, hit Monk right in the numbers between 2 defenders. It couldn't be thrown better.
It's almost like those are the passes that Mark Rippon is throwing better than the shorter touch passes. Seems the more he's able to crank it up and let it go, the better success he has.
1st and goal, and they give it to Biner. And Ernest, looking for a signal, gets it. Touchdown. Ernest Biner behind Mark Schlereth on the right side, putting it into the end zone to give Washington its first lead of the day.
You're watching the Redskins, man. I'll tell you, they can hurt you, and then they could bring you back.
Well,
they're
this
heartbreakers.
This is excellent blocking at the point of attack. Lachey, Middleton, Schlereth pulls around. Watch the blocking there on the right side of your screen. Here comes Schlereth around. There's Middleton's block on Dolman. Schlereth pins Merriweather to the inside, and you got a touchdown.
Lohmiller for the point after. And so the interception sets it up. The key 3rd down completion to Monk. The touchdown by Biner. And with 9:23 to go in the half, the Skins lead by 3. Chip Lohmiller's kickoff is fielded by Darren Nelson at the 11-yard line, and Nelson swings outside and takes it to the 29-yard line. The tackle is made by A.J. Johnson. Well, the Minnesota Vikings find themselves trailing for the first time today with 9:14 to play in the first half. 10-7 Washington. A lot of different ways to get to the Super Bowl. Last year, Washington home field advantage throughout made it pay off. This year, a whole other thing. As the last seed, you're never home.
No, you're never home, and Joe Gibbs, Frank, won't you agree, he'll be the first one to tell you, we don't deserve to be home. I mean, he is as grateful as a coach can be, having made it at 9-7.
He likes the situation. Top of the show, he said, it'll take a miracle, and he smiled about it. I think he kind of liked that situation.
Here's Terry Allen picking up a couple. Well, it's a miracle that they're here, and of course, last week when they finished their game Saturday against the Raiders, they thought they were done for the offseason.
The irony of the Vikings knocking the Green Bay Packers out of it 24 hours later to bring them back into it.
And it's the same old story, and this is why Minnesota was so concerned. I mean, never have the defending world champions gotten as much sympathy as the Redskins are getting right now. And Denny Green doesn't want to hear anything about it. He knows how formidable and dangerous the Redskins are, hurt or healthy.
On 2nd and 7, this is Terry Allen with room to roam and a 1st down, and still going and fights his way out to the 47-yard line.
Still going and going and going.
That's a gain of 15 for Terry Allen as you look at Roger Hedrick, who's the key man, the head of the Minnesota Vikings.
And over on the right side behind big Tim Irwin, and Brian Habib is Terry Allen. A lot of people might wonder, why isn't he in there all the time, and so much of the time shared with Roger Craig. Usually maybe 6 plays for Roger, 10 for Terry Allen. Allen obviously younger, stronger, faster, quicker, and a real fine football player.
And a gain of a yard or 2 as he takes it to the 49 with 7:50 to go in the half.
Do you have an answer for that question?
Well, I was going to say they like that Terry Allen can take himself out. I mean, he lets it go at full speed all the time, and often he'll just tap himself, I want out. And now he comes out, in comes Roger Craig, and of course Craig, as I mentioned earlier, a real good receiver out of the backfield. He offers you something that Terry Allen doesn't out of the backfield, even though Allen had 49 receptions this year.
5-yard average, what Allen has so far today. That works for me.
2nd and 8 at the 49-yard line. Salisbury, and that's dropped. Anthony Carter on the 40-yard line, and Mayhew might have gotten a hand on it. Martin Mayhew.
Mayhew had it. He had an INT. He had an interception in his hands.
Boy, they're happy to have him back.
Ooh. Oh, boy, that ball bounces from Anthony Carter. It's a perfect throw by Salisbury. Right on Carter's hands, and look at that. It caroms right over to Martin Mayhew.
Itchy Pettibone, what did you say last night? We're going to have to roll the dice. We've got a lot of people playing hurt. Just as we do on the offense, we're going to take some chances and hope it works for us.
Rippon warming up. Skins have intercepted Salisbury on Minnesota's last 2 possessions. And nearly there. 3rd down and 8. They roll the dice. They roll the dice, and Salisbury's pass is incomplete, intended for Chris Carter at the 41-yard line.
And when you have a young quarterback, as Dan pointed out, that's only made 5 starts, well, get people in his face. Frighten him a little bit if you can. I don't mean physically scare him, but make him wonder about whether he's going to find a receiver looking downfield. Make him a little anxious. Do things like that. As a matter of fact, that could have been caught, but it was thrown very low.
It was thrown low and it was thrown soft. That's the most difficult pass to catch. It's dying. It has no momentum when it comes to you, and you can see it just bounces off Carter's hand. Still, though, I agree. He could have caught it.
Here's Newsom's kick. It is fair caught at the 13. It's a 38-yard punt. Brian Mitchell with a fair catch, and that's where the Skins will take over. 7:03 left in the first half. San Diego is the site following this game, the Kansas City Chiefs against the San Diego Chargers on ABC. And then tomorrow, there's our primetime lineup. The Amy Fisher Film Festival continues. Our turn tomorrow on ABC. There it is. There's the lineup. At the 13-yard line, Brian Mitchell is in the game as the tailback, and he gets the ball. And Brian Mitchell out to the 23-yard line, a 9-yard gain. Jenkins makes the tackle. As we mentioned at the beginning, Ricky Irvins is hurt. He is not even dressed today, so Biner is the main man. Needs some backup help, and it comes here in the form of Brian Mitchell, the kick returner.
That's only his 7th carry of the season, and if we go beyond that, we'll go down to Robert Green, the rookie free agent from William & Mary. Biner, who had to take himself out as Ricky Irvins, had to take himself out of the game 2 yards short of a 1,000-yard season last week against the Raiders.
On 2nd and 1, they give it to Mitchell again. And look what the Redskins have found. Well, they flag down at the 28.
Oh, that's going to bring it back.
Oh, yeah. We have a hopping mad Redskin. That Ron Middleton jumping up and down. I mean, this guy was doing a pretty good standing high jump. He's incensed that he was called, if it was him.
Holding, number 87, offense. 10 yards, repeat 2nd down.
I mean, there are ways to express unhappiness if you are flagged for holding, and then there's Ron Middleton's way.
I want my blanket.
Well, there's no doubt that you're telling everybody at home and in the stadium it was on you. That hurts. That sure did. Took a 1st down now into a 2nd and long.
2nd and 11 at the 13-yard line. And Noga comes across the line. Redskins, of course, with all of their shifting and all of their motion.
Noga was saying he was drawn up by Simmons.
Well, but Simmons is going to say that I didn't move until Noga was way across the line of scrimmage. They'll have an argument here.
Gordon McCarter will have the final say. And he says,
Ball start, 76 offense. 5 yards, still 2nd down.
Well, you can't hiccup.
No, one of the great disadvantages of being an offensive lineman, when you go down into that 3-point stance, any movement, see that little twitch? In fact, it was a double twitch, and that got Noga going. You just can't do it. And now the crowd noise here at the Metrodome. Jim Hannafin, I can only assume that Hannafin, that movement was so minute that he didn't see it from the Redskin bench, because it was a good call by the official.
He was just told of the movement.
Yeah. Now he'll just be mad at Simmons.
2nd and 16. And Rippon throws a strike to the 22-yard line to Clark, who nearly has his head taken off. And the helmet.
Late flag.
Mike Merriweather was the man who made the tackle. Flag came in at the end.
And Gary Clark took a chance. He was losing yardage in an attempt to pick up yardage when he was within a yard of the first down marker.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness by the tackler. He grabbed the headgear and wrenched the man down by the headgear. 15 yards from the dead ball spot, first down.
He was the wrencher and Clark was the wrenchee. And you're right, Dan, he lost a couple of yards trying to pick up the yardage for the first down, and they will get it on the penalty.
The officials really react if you get up anywhere around the head with a forearm when you're trying to make a tackle, and they get Merriweather. Clark has a hold of both the ball and the helmet, and pleased to see that his head is not in the helmet.
What a great football player he is. Mr. Clutch should have called on today to pick up a lot of slack because of the injury to Ricky Sanders.
You know, that's a tough call on Merriweather.
Yeah, it is.
Clark is running right back to him. That's an instinctive thing to throw out your arm.
First down up at the 37-yard line. And Rippon going deep and a little too deep off the fingertips of Art Monk.
Oh, I don't know. That so close to perfect. And it had to be thrown perfect because Monk was splitting the zone deep downfield, and Rippon threw it exactly where he had to throw it.
Did you hear the crowd groan, guys? That was Jim Lachey working on Chris Dolman. The crowd, they were looking for flags to come pouring in on a holding call. This is how close Art Monk comes to making the big play. And as you said, Frank, the ball's just a little long. He is there, and that would have been another big Washington play. So close.
Art Monk, who's caught more passes than anybody in the history of the National Football League. 847. Here is Mitchell. Up to the 44-yard line he goes, setting up a 3rd down and 3 with 5:05 remaining in the half.
I mentioned before on the previous play the war that Dolman and Lachey. Look at the top of the screen, 79 against 56. Now Dolman just takes a bull rush to the inside, and that's why the crowd was moaning and groaning. Jim Lachey just got powered backwards by Dolman, and you won't see that very often. 6'6", 300 pounds of superior athlete. This is steel on steel, Lachey and Dolman.
3rd and 3. 4.5 to go in the half. 10-7 Washington.
Here comes Dolman.
Rippon underneath, and Mitchell drops it, but there's a flag down. Flag down. Back at the 38-yard line.
And so is Rippon. Remember last October the 25th? I don't think I ever saw a quarterback take the pounding he did here.
It's against the Redskins, and so the Vikings are going to get the football.
Number 87 offense. Penalty declined. 4th down.
Sometimes better to hold than let your quarterback take a full shot.
And better to not demonstrate too much after you are flagged for holding. Ron Middleton called again for holding by the officiating crew, and that's right, Ron. I would just seek the shelter of the sidelines.
Well, he's out working on Dolman.
Yep, and Dolman gets him to the inside.
Save your quarterback.
Oh, I didn't even see the hold. Dolman beat him so cleanly, I don't think he had a chance to hold him.
Penalty decline. It's 4th down at the 44-yard line.
Oh,
and it's a fake, and it is Brian Mitchell inside the 40, inside the 30. Biggest play of the game, takes it to the 18-yard line. They've run that before. They've run that with a lot of success. Brian Mitchell, the up back, with a 1st down inside the 20-yard line.
Oh, and you've got to be, if you're a special teams coach for the Minnesota Vikings, you've got to be sick about that, because you know they've talked about it during the course of the week getting ready for this game. They come out of that formation. Mitchell will be the guy if they decide to go on it. They're going to go at midfield. They're going to go on short yardage. Everything was set up for it, and it works.
Well executed. Brian Mitchell, why not? We did a Monday night game where he finished up the game as quarterback. Wayne Sevier rejoicing with his big 1st down. You work a long time. You start in July, and it pays off in January.
And it starts with the center guy, Bingham, with a perfect snap. Ernest Biner inside the 15 takes it down to the 11-yard line. Gain of 7. Wayne Sevier with a smile on his face. Any special teams coach would be grinning. That's a That's the biggest play of the half. They're up by 3. Minnesota was going to get the ball back, and now Washington's in a position to go up by 10.
Such a special teams tradition in our nation's capital in Washington. Started with George Allen, who really devoted so much time to special teams. Then Rusty Tillman took over for years, and it continues today.
2nd and 3. Here's Biner, and he can't get outside as Todd Scott comes up to make the tackle.
Boy, no matter what happens from here on out, the flag is down. You're going to have, the player is down. You're going to have to admire this Redskins team, because Minnesota comes down there immediately and scores, and they have battled to scramble back. And Jim Lachey now, who was out earlier in the season on IR with an injured knee.
Oh, this is
down once again, and this is major for the Redskins.
Joe Jacoby is healthy. He's had a long time to rest, and he's the first guy in. But this is a major blow to the Redskins if Lachey can't continue. And he gets up, and looks like he's favoring his right leg hobbling off.
His was a knee problem earlier, as I mentioned, and for Jacoby, a back problem that took him out of play on and off throughout the course of the season. But if you have to bring somebody in to go against Chris Dolman, well, you may as well bring in the former All-Pro at that position, Joe Jacoby.
Yeah, but I think Joe Jacoby is saying to himself, how about a running play to get started?
How about a tight end over here with me?
Let's not, don't make me go one-on-one right off the bat.
3rd down and 5. Very big play for the Viking defense to try to hold him to a field goal attempt. And it's Biner making the catch, and Biner is at the 8-yard line, and that should be enough for a first down.
And Jacoby with a good piece of work on Dolman. They left him all alone out there on Dolman.
They're going to measure, but from our vantage point, and you can see where the marker was, it appears they have it.
Well, thought somebody would have helped him out, but they left him alone, Dan.
Well, look how he gets into Dolman. When Joe Jacoby gets inside the framework of your arms, you are had. I mean, that is the end of that. Dolman cannot afford to lock up with Big Joe. A lockup favors the offensive lineman. A quicker guy like Dolman has to maintain separation. He has to keep himself at least arm's length. Right there where Jacoby has his helmet into Dolman's chest, he has won. The block is over as far as Dolman is concerned. And Lachey trying to get it loose over on the sidelines. Separation is the key for a quick guy like Chris Dolman.
It is 1st and goal at the 8-yard line, and the Redskins are going to let the clock tick down to the 2-minute warning. 1st and goal when we come back, with Washington on top, 10-7. Big series here because it's 10-7. Washington trying to get into the end zone, obviously, which will put them up by 10. Jim Lachey is back in the game. They have a 1st and goal at the 8-yard line, and each team has all of its timeouts remaining. Washington on 1st and goal. A terrible time this year. They've gotten in only half the time, tied for the lowest percentage in the National Football League.
That's a shocker.
Yes. And Brian Mitchell is inside the 5. Brian Mitchell is in for the touchdown.
As well blocked an offensive play as you will ever see. Brilliant execution by the Redskins. The lead blockers, the tight ends, and the offensive line, Frank, that's beautiful.
Minnesota thinking pass. We talked about the size. They're small up front. They're thinking pass. You come at the draw play. They're in their pass rush mode, and the Redskins blocked it out beautifully.
And Merriweather, 57. Watch him to the right. He's going to be the only Viking with a clean shot, and he falls off Brian Mitchell. Mike Merriweather could have made that play up around the 5-yard line. He's unaccounted for and doesn't make the play, and flags are all over the place.
That's one thing. Those outside linebackers, Dan, are small. Merriweather, great player that he is a 225-pounder. The other one, Jenkins, about a 215-pounder. And when somebody like a Brian Mitchell, a 200-pound running back, you're going to have a hard time bringing him down the side.
Yeah, but you can't confuse Brian Mitchell with Christian Okoye.
Snap, 99 defense. 5 yards will be assessed on the kickoff.
Well blocked out. Joe Gibbs has to be proud of that. Has to be really proud of what's going on here today.
Russ Grimm
They didn't have anyone to practice this week. They had one wide receiver on one day that they were working.
Well, here's Lohmiller for the point after with 1:56 to go in the half. And so that fake punt, and Brian Mitchell executing the fake punt, going into the end zone, picking up with Ricky Irvin's hurt. And the Skins have scored 17 unanswered points to lead by 10. In 1990, that's the game we talked about before. He came in, was the quarterback when the Skins had so many injuries, and that was the only time he had rushed for a touchdown in his career prior to right now.
What did Joe Gibbs say, though, about him? He has a lot of confidence in him, but he is so valuable as a return man. He said they are so hard to come by in this league. He's such a great return man. We don't want to risk it. And so I'll tell you how far they've gone. They have to risk it.
10 plays, 86 yards, and of course the fake punt was the key.
And now we'll see how Minnesota answers this offensively. Favored in the game, trailing by 10.
Lohmiller sends it down to the 4-yard line. This is Joe Johnson, the former Redskin, and he gets taken down up at the 24-yard line with John Brantley making the tackle. Jack Kent Cook on your left, the owner of the Redskins, and Charlie Casserly on your right, the general manager of the Redskins.
Charlie Cassidy, what a fine job he's done since Bobby Beathard went out to San Diego and going to the Plan B market, all those Plan B starters a year ago, January 26th here in the Super Bowl, all the trades he's made. Beautiful job of keeping the Redskins up on the fly.
At the 24-yard line, Salisbury sends it to Allen, and Terry gets taken down to the 31, gain of 7. The Vikings have all of their timeouts left. The clock is down to 1:40.
And again, this is where Sean Salisbury does not have that world of experience to fall back upon.
On 2nd and 3, throwing off his back foot and throwing it away. It'll be 3rd down and 3 as he winds up in the grasp of Jumpy Gethers and Fred Stokes.
Got a good decision there on the part of Salisbury. No receiver, nothing doing out to Terry Allen, nothing doing downfield as the Redskins were in a prevent defense. He just threw it out of bounds. Didn't try to force it in. A little awkward back there, but he is. He's 6'5", but a good athlete, former high school basketball and baseball star.
Notice how he never sets himself, though, Frank. He wasn't pressured until late, and yet he never took a firm stance in the pocket. That's something a quarterback that's unsure of himself is prone to do.
3rd and a short 3. Pump fake, going deep, way too deep, and good coverage on the play as well. And Fred Stokes knocks Salisbury to the turf. So insult to injury, and it's 4th down and 3.
Well, when you pump fake, you're going to draw the secondary, but the amount of time that you have to stand in the pocket, and you see the sandwich, Stokes on one side, Charles Mann coming in from the other, it's almost a certainty that the quarterback is going to take a good hit when you try to run that pattern.
Yeah, but Dan, you got to question the call, too. Trying to take that ball deep against the prevent defense. Forget it. 3 Skins were back there. And now the Redskins are going to get it back with a lot of time.
Harry Newsom.
I agree.
Mitchell takes it at the 21-yard line. And it's a 9-yard run back up to the 30-yard line. Following a 47-yard punt, Jake Reed makes the tackle. Skins have it with 1:12 remaining in the first half and all of their timeouts at their disposal. Charles Mann. Redskin defense, they gave up that long drive on the opening drive of the game, and there it is, the yards per quarter. The Vikings limited to 56 and the Redskins with 106. Rippon's numbers aren't scintillating, but his team is up by 10, and Lachey is in the game. That left tackle as the Skins come up to the 30-yard line.
And here is where in the past the Redskins have shined.
This is Art Monk working out of the backfield up to the 37-yard line. Tackled by Parker.
So somebody's down for the Redskins.
And that is Ernest Biner. Ooh.
And he's trailing that left arm now.
The original problem was a back problem last week that he played through, apparently.
if you've ever had a back that's been bothering you, getting out of your favorite easy chair is a chore. Imagine trying to play a National Football League game.
Well, that, since it happened in the last 2 minutes, is a charged timeout. The Skins were going to conserve their timeout, but they are forced to use one. They have 2 remaining.
Again, we saw Monk working out of the backfield. A lot of people might recall when he was originally drafted back in 1980, he had played a lot of running back for Syracuse as well as wide receiver.
That graphic you're looking at certainly indicative of superior line play. Last 5 postseason games, nary a sack. And Lachey back on the sidelines talking to Bubba Tyrer, the Redskin trainer. Big Joe Jacoby back in at left tackle.
2nd and 3 at the 37-yard line with Middleton in motion. Here's Brian Mitchell. And Brian Mitchell takes it up to the 43-yard line. That is a first down. We have 53 seconds remaining in the first half. Clock continues to tick down. Skins have 2 timeouts remaining.
And of course, if you have Lohmiller on the sidelines, you know you can reach it from at least 55. There's a good chance to make it from anywhere 52 or 53.
On 1st and 10 from the 43-yard line, they set up a screen. This is Mitchell. Couldn't get the blocking necessary. Only a 3-yard gain. Henry Thomas makes the tackle. Skins take a timeout. 31 ticks left. There's Lohmiller on the sideline.
Had a 52-yarder here in the Redskins 15-13 win in October.
Wilbur Marshall will be going to the Pro Bowl.
For the first time as a Washington Redskin, he made a couple of trips when he was a member of that tremendous linebacking trio in Chicago. Mike Singletary in the middle, Otis Wilson on the other side, and he turned in a year this year, guys. I know you agree with me, reminiscent of what Seth Joyner did last year with the Eagles. It's hard to imagine a linebacker having a better all-around year than Wilbur Marshall had this year for Washington.
In a similar way, he did it all.
Yep.
As Joyner did and is doing for Philadelphia. They don't get all the praise that the outside stand-up defensive end linebackers get in pressuring the quarterback and sacking the quarterback, but they just quietly do it all.
Meanwhile, there is the key man in this half, Brian Mitchell, scoring a touchdown, executing the fake punt, the great punt return, and he's going to be a key man now with Biner back on the bench, and Ricky Irvin's not even in uniform. 2nd and 7, a little shovel to Mitchell, and nothing happens there as the Vikings smell that one out. Merriweather makes the tackle. Washington down to its final timeout. And what do they want to do?
Well, they're going to let the clock run and let Mark Rippon try, I assume, a long pass.
On 3rd down, they throw it underneath to Brian Mitchell. And he takes it to the 41. It's a very curious use of the clock. 2 seconds. Now they take a timeout.
Well,
but you would have thought they would have taken the timeout before with the 20-some-odd seconds and run a play or two to try to get Lohmiller in shape and then go out of bounds.
I couldn't agree with you more, Al. They wasted a lot of time.
They're in very viable field goal position here.
Unusual to see the Redskins make curious use of the clock. That's very unlike a Joe Gibbs team. Clock management, one of his strengths, to be sure.
One of his many strengths.
Gary Clark is really upset over on the Redskins sideline. Gibbs has had to go over and talk to him, and Clark threw his helmet.
See, there's Lohmiller. Well, calling for the timeout at an earlier juncture.
That's a live shot right there of Clark and Gibbs. That's going on right now. A very volatile Gary Clark, one of the fine competitors in the league, and you can see Gibbs is maintaining a calm head here.
You know, the only thing you could speculate is that Gary Clark has been open. He felt he should be getting the ball thrown to him, and he is a competitive, great football player, and he is just upset about it.
The Vikings will now take a timeout.
40-second timeout.
With 2 seconds remaining, and barring a penalty, this will be the final play, and a 58-yard field goal attempt upcoming for Chip Lohmiller.
It's impossible for us to crawl inside Gary Clark's head and know exactly what he's thinking, but I'm inclined to agree with you that that's a frustration about not getting the ball when he thinks he ought to get the ball. And of course, all great quarterbacks think that.
Every receiver has felt that.
Receivers, rather. You're right.
And I felt it myself, and many times you want to go back and yank their helmet off and hit him over the head with it.
We ought to give Gary Clark Mark Clayton's phone number. They could chat about the...
Do it by committee.
In the history of the National Football League, the longest postseason field goal, 58 yards, in a wild card game 2 years ago, Miami, Kansas City. Pete Stoyanovich kicked it. This one will be spotted by Rutledge just inside the 49, so it's a 58-yard attempt, and it is low and no good.
That kick would have avoided radar. That was so low that it never had a chance.
The stealth.
Yeah.
So that is the end of the half as the Redskins trailed early, but then scored 17 straight to lead by 10. And back we come with halftime activities after this message from the NFL and a word from our ABC station.
The Toyota Halftime Report. Brought to you by Toyota and their full line of quality cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. Here now, Frank Gifford.
At the Metrodome, the Washington Redskins lead the Minnesota Vikings 17-7. Surprising lead here at halftime. We'll be returning to the Metrodome in a few moments. We'll look at some of the highlights of the first half. Right now, let's join John Saunders in New York.
Okay, thanks a lot, Frank, and welcome to the Toyota Halftime Report. We are in New York at halftime with the Washington Redskins in the lead. I'm joined by Sam White, who's the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We talked about it before the game. Here's a team, the Redskins. They lost their last 2 games of the season. They're on their heels a little bit, and they look like the team with the lift right now.
Well, you know what happened as a coach, I don't like to see a team go down and score too easily right off the bat. And that's what the Minnesota Vikings did. They went down, they got the long pass completion, they went in and scored. They came back, maybe got a little bit careless and went up for it, was intercepted. It's almost an unconscious liability that you have when you score too easily like that. I think teams come into it with a, with a mental focus and kind of an emotional zone, and if they get out of that, they're out of sync. And then, of course, was the crucial interference call that kept the drive going for the Washington Redskins. It looked like Merriweather almost tips the ball. Todd Scott is coming in there. He arrives really after the ball arrives with Art Monk. It should not maybe have been interference, but it's a tough call to make. Officials do an awfully good job. Now, don't get that look on your face. They do a great job in this one, but when those tight calls are made, sometimes they go against you. They're going for Washington right now, but there's another half to play. They do even out.
After further review, Sam White agreeing with the officials.
I love officials. They're my favorite kind of people.
We will mark that down in the second half as we look for the Vikings against the Redskins. Second half of our doubleheader, that's from San Diego. When we come back, we'll go out there for our preview. Brent Musburger.
When I hit 100.
Once again to the Toyota Halftime Report, I'm John Saunders. First half of the doubleheader, the Minnesota Vikings are down to the Washington Redskins. Right now for a preview of the second half of our 2 here today, let's join Brent Musburger in San Diego.
John, welcome to sunny Southern California. Suddenly, weather could be a factor in this game. The rain is expected to stop before the kickoff. Who does it help? Frankly, I think it'll bring out the worst in both teams. That's what bad weather normally does. Now, the key questions for Kansas City. Center Tim Grunhardt is expected to play somewhere on a grass surface. Albert Lewis returns as their nickelback. They can use him. For the San Diego Chargers, quarterback Stan Humphries, about 10 o'clock this morning, he arrived at the ballpark to get that injured left shoulder taped. And like everybody else, the weather.
Not supposed to be like this in San Diego.
Now, Lynn Swan, what's the latest with Stan down there inside the Chargers locker room?
Brent, Stan Humphries is in the locker room, and I talked to the head trainer, Keoki Kamau. He is getting treatment on that left dislocated shoulder, his non-throwing shoulder, and he's going to have a little ice massage and a little electrotherapy. Keoki also told me he's going to get a little help from his equipment. A set of shoulder pads were flown in a couple of days ago. It's got modular padding so that he won't have to be out there with an uncomfortable set. If it feels uncomfortable, he can just pop out the pad, rearrange it. You see the additional pad in front there that will go underneath the left arm, and that is just to protect him in case he is hit or he hits the ground. The most important thing for Stan Humphries at this point, when he goes out for pregame warm-up, is to feel comfortable and have confidence that the equipment and the arrangement of the tape around his chest will protect him throughout the game, Brent.
All right, Lynn, thank you. And so, John, weather a factor. Chargers, remember, are favored in this one by a field goal. Let's go back to you in New York.
All right, Brent, back to you in less than 2 hours. Weather, obviously, not a factor in Minneapolis under the dome. We'll get back to Frank Allen Dan in just a moment.
Rolla again.
Back in Minneapolis, the Redskins over the Minnesota Vikings 17-7. A surprising lead for the Redskins. Particularly, Dan, considering the first drive of the Minnesota Vikings, they looked like it was going to be a laugher. They take it right down the field.
Went right down the field with the opening kickoff. And, of course, the key play as we take a look at some of the highlights of that drive turned out to be a pass to Chris Carter. Carter had been on injured reserve and had missed 4.5 games with a broken collarbone. But here Salisbury unleashes one as he takes it inside the 5. It was 1st and goal. And Terry Allen was able to take it in to make it 7-0. But back came the Skins. Lowe Miller kicked a field goal to make it 7-3. And then early in the second quarter, this drive, after an interception of a Salisbury pass, was culminated by Ernest Biner's touchdown run to make it 10-7. And then the real key play in the first half coming toward the end of the half as the Redskins were lined up to punt from about midfield. The snap taken by Brian Mitchell, who's played such a key role in this first half. Mitchell takes it to the 18, and this drive ends with Mitchell himself taking it in for a touchdown to make it 17-7. And Dan, we talked about a lot of factors. Minnesota may have been favored, but again, to me, there are two salient numbers here that need to be addressed. The numbers are 20-1. This is Gibbs's 20th postseason game. This is Denny Green's first.
And what's his record through 19? 15-4.
You bet.
And right now, forget who's healthy and who's not. The question, the statement right now is that the Washington Redskins are playing like a team that knows how to win in the playoffs, and the Minnesota Vikings are not. The longer the half went on, the more the balance shifted to the Washington Redskins, both offensively, defensively, and special teams. For Dennis Green and the Vikings, somehow at halftime, they have to recapture the momentum that the feeling that they had when they started this game, because it has clearly eroded. And Sean Salisbury, who's never been in a playoff game, somehow is going to have to rebound and lead this team in the second half.
You know, I kind of like this, too. You look at the Washington Redskins, they limped in here. They have players at home. They have players that didn't practice. It really tells you a little bit about this game, the adversity, and how many times have you seen it, Dan and Al? The team is down, they're hurt, all of a sudden they play through it, and that's what we're seeing today.
They got that big ring on their finger that they won in a Super Bowl, and it takes a special kind of man to win that ring, and that team's full of them.
Yeah, it's far from over, but they also have some big hearts, and we're seeing it here today. We'll return with the second half kickoff after this from our ABC stations.
Wild Card Game, this ABC Sports exclusive, is brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers with that fresh, pure, natural taste. Nothing beats a Bud. By all the team members at Saturn, a different kind of company, a different kind of car. And by HBO. Think you've seen great entertainment before? HBO. Just you wait.
Back at the Metrodome in Minneapolis, the Washington Redskins are trying to advance. And as we mentioned earlier, if they win a trip to San Francisco. They play the 49ers in the next round. If the Vikings win this game, they go to Dallas. Denny Green at the age of 43. And Joe Gibbs, about 10 years older and in his 12th season in the National Football League, and trying to see if his team can do it in a far different manner than they did it last year when they were home throughout.
I wonder if Gary Clark got his thermostat adjusted at halftime. He went to the locker room unhappy, and we'll see if the Redskins make some kind of an effort to get him the ball early here in the second half.
But do you believe the first play?
There's the story of the first half for Washington offensively. Special teams, he's done everything.
Mitchell takes the kick from Quadreves, and he throws it to the near side, and this is Danny Copeland, and Copeland can get back only to the 18-yard line. Well, that's a play that he's worked on with Desmond Howard
successfully,
and it worked for a touchdown earlier this season. Howard, by the way, is on injured reserve. He was hurt last week. Quite a way for the Redskins to begin this second half.
Wayne Sevier wore out a couple pencils this week.
This has got to be a lateral, and so you saw Mitchell set up on the yard marker so he could determine whether it would be a lateral, and it was, but it was good coverage. Again, it's tough to do against a quick team like the Vikings. They got a lot of speed out there, and they recovered very quickly.
They honored their responsibilities and stayed home.
And they also knew that the Redskins had it.
Ernest Biner begins the second half as the tailback.
He gets the ball. He gets tackled by Dolman as he reaches the 21-yard line. And we'll take a look at the numbers through the first half of play. And those 2 Minnesota turnovers have both turned out to be quite costly.
You see the Vikings have given up 10 points because of those turnovers. The lone Redskin turnover didn't cost them anything because Minnesota turned it right back over to them. Time of possession favors Washington, and the Vikings right now need something to get them jump-started.
Jacoby is in at left tackle. Lachey does not start this half. Steiner goes nowhere. Stopped at the line of scrimmage. Audrey McMillan, who will be going to the Pro Bowl, comes up to make the tip.
What could give them a good start, Dan, of course, would be to shut the Redskins down on this very first series.
Ooh, there's Jack Del Rio, who's down on the field. A lot of people think that he might be the Viking most valuable player this year. The impact he's had on the defense coming up here from Dallas, the way he has played the run, and he's got a leg problem of some type.
That will probably bring out a former Redskin when they stay in the 4-3. Minuski as the middle linebacker.
Looks like his left leg. There's Del Rio right in the middle of the screen. He makes the hit. He comes in. And it looked like he got clipped on that left ankle.
They replaced Del Rio for the moment with 2 linebackers in this alignment with Ed McDaniel.
Yeah, they're in their nickel now.
A rookie out of Clemson.
They've been Minuski in a 4-3. They're in nickel now.
3rd down and 7 from the 21-yard line. And Rippon going deep for Clark, and he almost makes a spectacular catch, but can't hold on at the 40-yard line.
There is the story of the Redskin passing game in 1992. So near to so many big plays, and yet there's an illustration, Frank, where Gary Clark is open, and he's just a shade overthrown by Mark Rippon.
And we saw it a little earlier, an overthrow just off the fingertips. And Gary Clark almost made a spectacular catch.
He had it. The field knocked it out. It would have been a highlight film catch, and a quarterback can't put his receiver in that position every time.
Big series for the Vikings. They'll shut the offense down to the Redskins. They'll get the ball close to midfield.
Got a good burn to kick. Anthony Parker to receive it. Very low line drive kick that he angles out of bounds near the 40-yard line. They'll march it off, spotted at the 38-yard line, and that's where the Minnesota Vikings will take their first second half possession. They continue to work on Jack Del Rio. Meanwhile, in San Diego, where it's raining, the Kansas City Chiefs against the San Diego Chargers. The Chargers in the playoffs for the first time in a decade, winning the AFC West. Bobby Ross in his rookie season winning 11 of his last 12.
Hard to figure who that rain will help.
At the 38-yard line, here are the Vikings starting with Roger Craig as the running back. He's across the 50, and he's all the way down to the Redskin 42-yard line.
Boy, he made Brad Edwards look bad, didn't he?
Oh, he can do it. Great cutback runner, high stepping, characteristic stride of Roger Craig. And he covers up the football. They'll try to strip it right at the end. Now watch this cutback. And he kicks those knees up. Edwards gets a hand on him, that's all. Covering up the football as Mayhew tries to pull it out.
20-yard gain. His longest run during the regular season was 21. Here he goes again for no gain. Boy, the playoffs just find Roger Craig, don't they? 10 years in the league, 8 with San Francisco, goes to postseason every year. Goes to the Raiders last year, they go to postseason. This year, well, what else is new?
Kind of a nice talisman. Will be next year, huh? Well-conditioned athlete. He'll be around here for a while.
I think he'd like to be here.
In his 10th year as a running back, that's a lot of years, but he stays in great condition.
Terry Allen comes into the game on 2nd and 11 from the 43-yard line. Early 3rd quarter. Washington ahead 17-7. Salisbury with good protection and nearly had that one picked off by Martin Mayhew.
And the Boo Birds are on Sean Salisbury. Martin Mayhew, not expecting to be the recipient of so many balls coming his direction, has another one bounce off of him. Remember, he had a carom job earlier that came to him. And that is no carom job. That is between the 3 and the 5. And that's just a major mistake by Mayhew to not intercept that thing. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's just been activated back early from a broken forearm, but still.
3rd down and 11. Pressure from Mann. He steps up and then goes down at his own 49 in the grasp of Fred Stokes. Mann forced the issue, and then Stokes finished him off. And the Vikings are forced to kick.
And Sean does not.
Hey, what a job this
He's
man's
just got
doing.
that star-struck look to him, man. I know you're Richie Pettibone here.
Yeah, first
many
drive,
times.
Minnesota looked like they were going to blow them right out, and they haven't done anything since. They've just shut down everything. Here comes Mann, getting around Irwin, forcing Sean to step up. Stokes has got the penetration in his man. Classic.
Yeah. And you have to understand, that's not Salisbury's fault. From the minute he's flushed by Mann, he's just fighting for survival.
Newsom's kick is a 42-yarder, fair caught by Mitchell at the 8-yard line. 11:31 left in the 3rd in the playoffs. 10-point Washington lead.
On the fire and watch some guys playing golf. That's a great way to spend a winter weekend.
Washington from the 8-yard line. Ernest Biner takes it to the 10. That's a pickup of 2. It'll be 2nd down and 8 with 11:20 remaining in the 3rd quarter. 17-7. Washington, and Jim Lachey is back in.
Yeah, he's suffering from some bad ribs and had them attended to at halftime. And he's able to continue to play. And there's a good look at Jack Del Rio, who we saw limp off with the bad ankle. He had it retaped, and now he's back out for the Vikings. And as you can tell, this is a playoff game. Nothing to hold back for.
2nd and 8 from the 10. Rippon guns it up to the 22-yard line, and it's caught for a 1st down as Art Monk, who was catching a lot of passes in the first half of the season, but had seen his productivity really fall off in the second half, is there for the 1st down.
Look at the protection, though, that Rippon gets. Mark Rippon is not challenged at all in the pocket, able to step up into the middle and deliver that pass, Frank.
Lee had a hand in there.
Monk was dragging him in.
But he captured the hand and the ball.
At the 22-yard line. 1st and 10 after Monk's 3rd catch of the game. A lot of time for Rippon, and a perfect throw to a wide-open Ron Middleton, who's down by contact up at the 41-yard line. Another Redskin 1st down.
2 good throws now in a row for Mark Rippon. He gets the one out to Art Monk, who helps him with a good catch. And that time, a good read by Middleton, who got himself into the zone. He pulled up, and Rippon read right with him the zone. He comes off one receiver, looks back. Middleton is set up in there, and Rippon fires it in.
Such a perfect illustration, though, of the Redskin passing philosophy. Only a 2-receiver pattern downfield. Everyone else stays in to protect the quarterback. It's a different philosophy from a lot of teams where they put the quarterback at risk by sending 5 people into the pattern.
And from the 40-yard line, here comes Dolman, and he is sacked at the 30. That's the end of the play. The ball is loose. The play is over at the 30-yard line.
Dolman just ripped the ball out of there after the play was over, but nobody touched Dolman. The Vikings like to do this once in a while. They do a little deal up front. You make a mistake on it, and Dolman with that unbelievable speed is all over your quarterback before he can set up. See him come inside, beating Lachey to the inside.
Lachey just overcommits to the outside. He took too big of a step with that left foot to the outside, and he guessed. And he guessed wrong. He guessed Dolman was going upfield. Dolman knifed to the inside, and Lachey was dead wrong.
2nd and 20. And Rippon somehow is able to gun it in to Gary Clark. Perfect. Up at the 42-yard line for a gain of 11. It'll be 3rd down and 9. Anthony Parker, who is in there for the injured Audrey McMillan, makes the tackle. McMillan was shaken up on the earlier catch by Middleton.
What a great effort by both Rippon and Clark.
Was it a sales job?
I don't know. He made it look awfully pretty. I think they tend to give Gary Clark the benefit of the doubt because he's done it so many times. Does he hold on, control it? Well, no, he doesn't. But, I mean, this is Gary Clark. He's going to get the call, and he gets it.
3rd down and 9 at the 42-yard line. He drops it off to Clark, and Gary tried to make an inside move on Lee and slips down at the 47, and that'll create a punt.
And I think all Viking fans say there's justice. He didn't catch the last one, so it's fitting that he falls down on third down, because that was not a catch.
The competitive nature of Gary Clark, too. I mean, let's take a look again. This is going back to the play just before he has to control the ball. He obviously didn't, and certainly obvious in slow motion. A little difficult at top speed, but you get the nature of Gary Clark. He is a competitor. He wants to play the football game. He wants to be in on every play, and I'm sure that was the result of what we saw as he left the field at halftime, jawing, and everybody would listen.
Goodburn to kick. Line of scrimmage is the 48. And it's a very short kick that's fair caught up at the 23 by Parker. 29-yard boot. 7:36 remaining in the third. Still 17-7 Redskins. The Washington Redskins on top 17-7. Jim Hannafin going over with his offensive line.
That's a hurting bunch of guys playing on hard over there, and a lot of guts.
First down, Minnesota from the 24-yard line as Allen moves out to the 27-yard line. That's a pickup of 3. 2nd and 7. Shane Collins in on the tackle, and the Vikings are going to need some productivity from Salisbury. Down by 10. Sean is 1 of his last 7, and in the game 5 of 14 to 88 yards and 2 picks.
Last week 20 of 33 and 290 yards against Green Bay. What a difference.
2nd and 7, and that's incomplete. Intended for Carter, who's covered by Mayhew.
The crowd booing, thinking that Mayhew got there early. It looked like a pretty well-timed play by the Redskin cornerback, who's having to do a lot today. Fill in for Darrell Green on the heels of returning from a broken forearm of his own. I think he'll offer no apology.
3rd and 7 from the 27-yard line. Everybody's covered, and so is Salisbury at the 21 by Fred Stokes, who gets his 2nd sack.
Get it right on the head out. That's a coverage sack. Salisbury had plenty of time. His line gave him plenty of time to get the ball downfield, but good coverage by the Redskins secondary. Looking for somewhere to go. Steps up, still nobody. I got to get out of here.
Yeah, Jumpy Geathers was the man who created the largest amount of penetration up the middle. And when Salisbury went to step up, it was Geathers on the ground that caused him to flush out.
Newsom's kick. It's a 52-yard kick that bounces out of bounds at the 29-yard line. Washington with the ball again, and the lead, 17-7. Well, the other quarterback for the Vikings is the man in the hat and the jacket, and that's Rich Gannon, who was their starter through much of the season. Now it's Salisbury. Dennis Green told us yesterday it's Sean all the way. Today, we'll see. First down at the 29-yard line for Washington. And Brian Mitchell starts with a 5-yard gain to the 34.
As Dennis said, his philosophy is that, hey, I made the decision that this is my #1 guy, so I feel that he's the best man for this particular game. Number 2, he takes all the reps during practice, so he's the most qualified to play, and he just doesn't believe in pulling in substitutions. And there's a good example. Gannon has never been a substitute in his career. But this is a playoff game. This is a playoff game. If you don't win this, there's nothing left. So the temptation has to be there for Dennis Green.
2nd and 5, and Mitchell fights his way up to the 40-yard line. Big day for Brian Mitchell. Mike Merriweather makes the tackle. Again, if you don't follow the Redskins that closely, Ernest Biner's their key guy. Ricky Urbans is their #2 guy, but Urbans is hurt today, so Brian Mitchell's had to fill a big role today, and he has filled it brilliantly as you look at Ricky Urbans.
He just battled for another first down. Urbans on the sideline with a bad ankle, and Biner, we already told you about him with the bad back and perhaps something else earlier in the game.
Told you McMillan came out, the cornerback, the right corner for Minnesota, bicep injury. He's questionable as to his return, and Parker spells him. And Parker locked up right now one-on-one with Monk as Mitchell somehow finds room up to the 45-yard line, gain of 5. Carlos Jenkins makes the tackle, and we have less than 5 minutes to play in the third quarter.
Vikings, you get the feeling they need a big play at this point. They need a turnover, a fumble, somebody to knock the ball out of there, somebody to scoop it up, do something big for them. The Redskins are taking total control of this game. They, right now, are owning the line of scrimmage. And Tony Dungy knows that, the defensive coordinator of Minnesota, very well. They need a big play.
2nd and 5 from the 45-yard line. And there is Mitchell getting to midfield, and if the nose of the ball is on the 50-yard line, he's got a first down. And he does.
You mentioned the line of scrimmage, Frank, and that's what we're seeing. Of course, how many times have we seen it over the career of Joe Gibbs and this Redskin offensive line? The longer the game goes on, their physical prowess begins to assert itself. And this last play is a classic look at it. Look at the surge on the left side. Brian Mitchell, not a power back, is not contested until he's 4 yards downfield.
1st and 10 at the 50. 17-7 Washington. Mitchell stopped at his own 48 by Jack Del Rio.
I think maybe the Redskins had one too many motions that time. What they have, 2 motions, 3 shifts.
But you could see they had the Vikings a little bit confused. The problem is they confused themselves a little bit.
I think so.
Jack Del Rio, what a Plan B player he has been. Of Dallas, originally drafted as an All-American out of USC to New Orleans, went to Kansas City. Dallas put him on Plan B, probably because they thought he'd stay there. Came up here, liked it, moved up here, and he has been one of the key reasons this Vikings defense has gone from 14th to 8th.
2nd and 12. Here is Monk. And Monk gets tackled by Parker, who's in there subbing for McMillan, and that's a 4-yard loss.
When a wide receiver is playing running back, which Monk had to do there, their instincts aren't as good as a regular running back. And Art should have cut back to the inside, utilizing his blocker. Instead, he jumps outside to the sideline and gets tackled. He should have jabbed inside of Ray Brown there. Instead, he went outside, and Anthony Parker nails him for an even bigger loss.
3rd down and 16 at the 44. 2:10 left in the third. Redskins up by 10. Dolman can't sack Rippon, who then finds Clark at the 26 for a big first down. On 3rd and 16, Dolman just couldn't get Rippon down, and then Mark stepping up and finding the open man.
And Gary Clark knew he was going to take a shot, and he got one, but Mark Rippon, he sometimes, like I said, he can break your heart, and then he can absolutely make your heart beat. Out of sheer joy. This is a great play, get him away from Dolman, and he finds Clark and fires it in there.
What's unusual about that is that the Redskins, the Vikings always have such good pressure in the middle. Their 2 tackles are always in the quarterback's face, and that's really unusual. Dolman forces him up in the middle, and Rippon's able to get it away.
Gain of 29, first down at the 27-yard line. Here's Ernest Biner, tackled by Del Rio after a gain of 3 to the 24. And the Redskins now not only moving the ball downfield, but Rippon using as much of the clock, and we have less than a minute to go in the third quarter.
It's not the point of the ball game where it's crucial. I mean, like where you don't have any chances left. But the Vikings trailing by 10 points with Washington outside of scoring territory with a 3rd and 16. To give up that play is a real backbreaker. A real backbreaker.
2nd and 7 at the 24. Oh, and Rippon nearly had it picked off at the 19-yard line by Henry Thomas.
Well, he nearly knocked Thomas down with it.
Well, they come with the blitz. Yeah, they come with the blitz.
It forced Rippon out of the pocket, but he's looking right downfield at Henry Thomas, and he just drilled him. That could have stuck in the mask. How does he think he's ever going to get that through there? Thomas is there. Del Rio is there. And maybe he accomplished what he wanted to do. Hit him so hard he couldn't hold on to it.
Unless he accomplished his mission. If his mission was to break a couple of Henry Thomas's fingers.
If you throw it into a defender's hands, it might as well be a defensive tackle. 3rd down and 7. Rippon for Clark, who's open. Touchdown.
And a great read with Rippon and Clark. Picked up the single coverage on the blitz. The Vikings ordinarily sitting in that zone. Rippon read it. Clark read it. And let's see him on the sidelines.
Eric Everett didn't read it.
Watch this. There it is. He was jawing all over him as he left the field at halftime. And what a combination. Wide open. Back of the end zone.
Lohmiller for the point after. So they had a 3rd and 16 to the Redskins. They converted that. Rippon finds Clark in the end zone, and we've got 17 seconds left in the 3rd. And the Redskins trying to win a trip to Candlestick.
Some pride.
At the quiet Metrodome in Minneapolis, Lohmiller to kick off. The Redskins have scored 24 straight points to lead 24-7. The kick is taken at the 3-yard line by Joe Johnson. And Johnson runs it out to the 34-yard line. Tackled by James Jenkins. Gary Clark getting free in the back of the end zone to cap off a 71-yard drive. 6 seconds now left in the 3rd. Yards by quarters. The Vikings with a big early drive right off the bat, but then the 2nd quarter dominated by the Redskins, and the 3rd quarter totally dominated by the Redskins.
And you look at the touchdown pass to Gary Clark, but as strange as this sounds, the one to Clark before that on the 3rd and 16 was even bigger.
1st and 10 Minnesota at the 33. Waning seconds of the 3rd quarter. And Salisbury hits Anthony Carter. Nice catch. Takes it to the Washington 42-yard line on what will be the final play of the 3rd quarter. And so the Vikings begin the 4th quarter in Redskin territory. 24-7 Washington, and back we come to Minneapolis after this message from our ABC stations. Start the 4th quarter, and quite clearly, gents, a very critical drive here from Minnesota, down by 17.
Which we talked so much about the Washington offense. What about this defense? They've done a tremendous job shutting Minnesota down. That was the first catch for Anthony Carter. Steve Jordan, the tight end, has no catches.
Salisbury on 1st down from the 42. Nearly has that one picked off. Intended for Anthony Carter. A.J. Johnson with the coverage, and that catch by Anthony Carter at the end of the 3rd quarter was his first catch of the day.
And they shut out Steve Jordan, their Pro Bowl tight end. Richie said he was going to roll the dice, and he's done that. He's blitzed at the right time. He's absolutely called a perfect game.
But they are fast approaching that point where you're going to have to score virtually every time you have a possession. And at the same time, you're going to have to keep Washington from ringing the bell anymore. So here in the 4th quarter, the Minnesota offense and defense better come together and have the quarter of their lives.
2nd and 10, and Salisbury goes down again. Stokes was a part of that. And Fred Stokes, I don't know if they'll give him the whole sack or a half of that one, but if they give him the whole thing, that's 3.
Well, the Redskins' key to victory has always been the same. Forget all the multiple shifts, the formations, the blitzes. Richie Pettibone on defense, Joe Gibson running the offense. They win by dominating the line of scrimmage. And that is what the Redskins have done to the Vikings through 3 quarters of play. A good illustration of it there. The Redskin defensive line just collapses the Viking offensive line. It has always been the way. Forget the cuteness. They win by physical domination up front.
3rd and 21. Stokes puts the pressure on this time, and Stokes is going to get another sack at the 35-yard line. And we're going to check with scoring to see if they gave him the full sack the last time. If that's number 4 for the day, he only had 3.5 during the regular season.
You can see Sean Salisbury motioning to the official that he wanted a face mask call, still complaining bitterly about it. There's Fred Stokes. The left hand clearly has the face mask.
He's got a point.
Of Salisbury, and he has an excellent point.
Almost tore his head off.
The referee was on the far side and obviously didn't see it, but Salisbury's got a case that should have been called.
Harry Newsom forced the kick, and it's fair caught by Mitchell at the 23-yard line. So if that was a critical drive for Minnesota, the condition of the Vikings is now critical. Nice beginning for the Vikes today at TD on their first drive, but after that, boy, is that ugly.
Talk about not being indicative of what was to follow. That opening drive was it.
From the 24-yard line, here's Ernest Biner. And Biner takes it up to the 31-yard line. I mean, Ernest Biner, he is a guy who is so smart. Through the years, he's played extremely well in postseason. On that particular play, he's skirting the sideline, and not that the clock is that huge a factor right now, but why not stay in bounds? Unfortunately, it's that stupid fumble in the AFC Championship game 4 years ago that people remember, at a man who, and we'll bring it up as we go through the fourth quarter, has been terrific in postseason play.
Well, they missed by, what, 2 yards for the 3rd consecutive 1,000-yard season. Had any other Redskin done that? I don't believe so. And he's not a fumbler.
And like we're looking at Vincey Glenn, who's doubled over there on the Vikings sideline after that last run by Biner. But let's be serious now. You're talking about a guy who has been excellent every year he's been in the NFL, and like he's the only running back in the NFL that's ever fumbled at a critical time. Forget that.
You carry it, you're going to lose it.
2nd and 3 at the 31, and here's Ernest again, and Dolman stops him after a gain of 1, with Merriweather finishing him off. It'll be 3rd down and 2.
Good play by Chris Dolman. Fights off the block of the tight end and gets upfield and makes the hit. Just every first down now by the Redskins is just hammering away at the Vikings and just sapping them a little bit more. They have no mistakes left.
And as it
finally makes it a first down.
So frequently, the Vikings moving a little quickly on the snap.
And they just whistled Noga for a personal foul at the end of that last play, and that is a first down for Washington up at the 36-yard line.
A mistake they don't have to give.
13:15 to play. Middleton in motion. Here's Brian Mitchell up to the 41-yard line. That's a gain of 5. Mike Merriweather makes the tackle.
The Redskins running game is just a series of explosions. I mean, it is just, you hear one and then you hear another one, and then it's the lead block comes whamming in there and the tight ends blocking down. This is just a methodical wear you out, slam it right at you. Good block by Lachey coming off to the inside on Del Rio, but it is a physical running attack. And here in the fourth quarter is when the other guy starts to get just a little hesitant to stick his head on the ball carrier. Why not let somebody else do it?
They're already on the smallish side too, Dan.
2nd and 5. Mitchell again, and Brian Mitchell seeking that first down, and I believe he has it.
You see
to the 47.
You see how the missed tackles are starting to become a little more frequent? The first guy from Minnesota getting to the ball carrier isn't bringing the Redskin down.
They didn't quite give him the spot that I thought they would. This is going to be a little closer than we originally anticipated.
Well, let's call down there, Al.
Yes, sir.
Tell them where you want it.
Yes,
The
sir.
secret of this defense for the Vikings has been penetration. They're not that big. They've got to be quick and And you pointed out a while ago, late in the game, sometimes that quickness starts to go, and that's when hog power really takes over.
Hog power. Hog power was good for a first down there. Al, you were right.
Yep. Vindicated. Just want to make sure those contacts are still operative.
I think George Seifert is headed towards the video room to pull out some of the Skins tapes.
Jim Hannafin, the offensive line coach there, former head coach of the St. Louis Cardinals, trying to tell Brian Mitchell what to do so he can take credit for it afterwards.
190 combined yards for Brian Mitchell. First down up at the 46-yard line. And here's Ernest Biner taking it to the Minnesota 45-yard line. So chewing up yardage and chewing up the clock, down to 11.5 to play. 24-7, Washington.
Once again over Jim Lachey, and the big man slow getting up once again. But they set out today to focus and go right at big strength of the Minnesota defense, Chris Dolman. He's a great pass rusher. They just power him with their tight end. Coming over there is Terry Orr right behind Lachey, and
I mean, look,
a couple of explosions later.
Look what they throw at you. 300-pound guard, 300-pound tackle, 270-pound tight end, a 250-pound tight end. I mean, it is just merciless the way they come at you.
And second and 2 as they take the play clock down to 2, and Ernest Biner picks up the first down. Just perfect execution. Second and 2, take the play clock down to 2. Keep the sticks moving and keep the clock going.
That might have been our best look yet at the right side of the offensive line. They just blew these guys out of here. Whoa. I mean, watch this look at the Vikings go backwards.
Oh, that was Jacoby's man.
Caught in midair. Joe Jacoby in the ball game. I mean, this.
What's Milka, 6'1" and about 260?
Yeah, Joe Jacoby in at right guard, spelling Mark Schlereth, who's nicked himself.
First and 10 at the 42. Again, the play clock is down to 3 at the snap. Brian Mitchell finds some room, and Mitchell takes it to the 37-yard line. An unlikely hero, Brian Mitchell, a guy getting a chance to see a lot more action today because of the fact that Biner's been dinged and Irvins is out, and that's 102 yards on the ground, including that fake punt for Brian Mitchell, the one-time college quarterback.
An unlikely hero at the running back position coming into this game. I have to say that his effort has taken Minnesota by surprise.
A very reluctant one. Remember, Joe Gibbs told us he really hoped he didn't have to go to this. Didn't have a choice, and Mitchell has really come through.
Second and 5, and again, Rippon doing a beautiful job with the play clock. The snap this time is at 2. Here's Mitchell. A play that was anything but pretty, but that's another first down.
A totally busted play. Looks like this spot is going to be close again, Al. They're
very close, yeah.
Spotting him maybe a little shy of it. This will be another measurement.
But you know, Mitchell didn't get that many reps last week working on the offense, and you have to expect something like that every now and then. It's remarkable that they have been able to run the offense as smoothly as they have.
You got 3 tight ends in the lineup for the Redskins, and this is where they slam it at you. Or Middleton, Jenkins, all in the game at the same time. I mean, it is a serious collection of beef coming at you.
They're about an inch shy of a first down. Combined yards in a postseason game in the history of the Redskins. Ricky Sanders, you go back to the Super Bowl in San Diego against Denver. He had that tremendous day. And Timmy Smith in that same game, pretty much a one-game wonder was Timmy Smith. But what a game. If you're going to be a one-game wonder, it might as well be in the Super Bowl.
And factor in Doug Williams, who quarterbacked the Redskins that game, and what a 35-point second quarter. You're right, it was the shining moment for a lot of people. Us not included.
It was our year to have it. Enjoyed the week down there, though.
The size of Rippon helps. They often go with the quarterback sneak. Big mark at 6'4" and about 230 pounds.
Third and inches or even a singular inch, and Rippon gets it by plenty.
Hard to stop that.
What do you say about a team that throws a 235-pound quarterback at you?
8:45 remaining in the fourth quarter. Washington leading 24-7. Out west we go next. Brent Musburger, Dick Vermeil are there in San Diego. The Kansas City Chiefs earning a spot in the playoffs with their win last week against Denver, head west to take on the San Diego Chargers, who lost their first 4 and then wrapped up the year winning 11 of the last 12. Jacoby is back in the game at the 30-yard line. It's first down and 10. Ernest Biner.
This
9-yard gain.
This is surgery without an anesthetic.
This for a very hushed and moaning crowd now.
This is a brutal display of football by the Washington Redskins. You talk about dotting the I, crossing the T, and putting the exclamation point at the end of how you take care of the football. This drive right here is symbolic of a team that is the world champion until proven otherwise.
And according to Joe Gibbs, we're looking at a miracle.
And Jim Hannafin, their offensive line coach, believe me, he's a happy guy. This is
his kind of football, isn't it?
Well, when you're a 3.5-point dog, it's not quite a miracle, but it's a miracle they got in the playoffs after they lost to the Raiders last Saturday.
It's amazing. I guess it's how nice a guy Joe Gibbs is that so many people could feel so sorry for the world champions.
Yep.
I mean, people have tears running down their cheeks feeling sorry for the Redskins. I think today might erase that.
Well, he hands out a lot of Kleenex, too.
The current Redskin drive began at their own 24, so they've chewed up 55 yards and taken 6.5 minutes off the clock. That last timeout, a Washington timeout. Total yards in the game, Washington, great balance today. And Minnesota has been stymied since their opening drive. It is 2nd down and 1. And this is Biner picking up a first down, and that'll take another 45 seconds off the clock by the time they run the next play.
It is such a wonderful feeling to be in that offensive huddle, Frank. You've been there before when you have another team on the run, when you have them on the heels, when you're just clicking off first down after first down. It's a great feeling.
And particularly in a playoff situation, you know you're going to continue on. You weren't expecting to. There's a wonderful camaraderie that comes back together again. Not that the Redskins have not had it. They've stuck together real well this year. But it'll start to motor form a little even stronger.
Mitchell. Well, the Redskins are sending the Vikings some thank you note. They're in the playoffs because of Minnesota, and they've just knocked Minnesota right out of them.
Still, what a fine job Dennis Green did here in his first year, turning this team around. We talked about going from 14th defense to 8th overall, and offense, they also made a tremendous turnaround. Sent a message. He wants no problems off the field. He wants his players to perform on the field at the highest level.
2nd and 9 at the 17-yard line. Play clock down to 5. And Mitchell gets tackled by Del Rio at the 15-yard line. Well, if this keeps up now, the Redskins head to San Francisco, and that means that the winner of the Philadelphia-New Orleans game tomorrow would go to Dallas.
And we'll have an opportunity for a great postgame show. Check in on Kansas City and San Diego.
Post, between, and pre.
Put them all together, and it spells Redskins football.
This game just fast. 2.5 hours old right now. Only 5 minutes left.
Biner on 3rd and 7, taking it to the 10. It's 4th down and 2 on what was the 13th play of this drive, which has consumed almost the entire 4th quarter. The drive starting with less than a minute having expired in the 4th. We're down to 4:52 and counting, and Lohmiller comes in to try to tack on 3. Will be about a 28-yard field goal attempt.
Chip actually practices up here during the offseason. Goes over to the Vikings field, their indoor field sometimes, their outdoor field. Makes his home here, former University of Minnesota star.
His privileges might be rescinded here.
27-yard field goal attempt. Rutledge puts it down, and the Vikings finally get a break. somehow, some way, Lohmiller misses an easy one. But not a bad time to do it with a 17-point lead and 4:25 to go. Non-division winners advancing to the Super Bowl. There was no such thing as a wild card in '69, but Kansas City did not win the, at that time, AFL West, but they went on to win the Super Bowl. Dallas in '75 went to the Super Bowl. Oakland is the only wild card team to win it, the true wild card since. As Salisbury's pass is incomplete, intended for Joe Johnson. But since the leagues merged and they went to the wild card setup as we know it now, or a variation thereof, only the Raiders in '80, when they beat Philadelphia, have won the Super Bowl. And the Redskins, of course, under Jack Kent Cooke and Charlie Casserly, and Jack already enjoying his victory drink, are trying to duplicate that feat.
Crowd taking a little of the frustration out on their quarterback, Sean Salisbury.
2nd and 10. The great thing about Jack Kent Cooke is that apple juice and a snifter, that's the way to celebrate a wild card win.
And he's a noted connoisseur of apple juice, and I'm sure that's what that was. Sean Salisbury there almost completed a pass to a Hall of Famer. That was Charlie Taylor on the sidelines for the Redskins, who I think intentionally dropped that ball. There's Charlie Taylor.
That's the only one he ever dropped.
That's right. And let's see, did he try to catch this?
Oh,
no.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, Charlie, Charlie.
Get on old number 42.
He may have dropped that, Charlie.
Was he 42, Dan?
Back to, yes, he was. Back to the practice squad.
3rd and 10, and Salisbury's pass is incomplete as Perry Allen, who's been almost a non-factor today, has it jarred loose by A.J. Johnson. And the Redskins have effectively taken just about every offensive weapon out of the game all day long outside of that first drive.
Great timing on the hit by Johnson.
Should have held on.
Jarring it loose. You've got to hold on to that. Now, well, do you have a fake punt? Not going to fool anyone if you come with one.
In this half, ooh, look at that, almost 5-1 for Washington in terms of time of possession. And yes, this is one time that stat is very reflective of what's happening. Newsom's kick is fielded by Mitchell at the 31, and he'll add to that combined yardage total, taking it back to the 38, a 7-yard run back following a 49-yard boot.
Well, you hope that this loss by the Vikings doesn't detract from what has been a most fortunate year for them, in the sense that they hired Denny Green. He came in and has established a system, and you get a look at what we have coming up for you after the game and before we take you out to San Diego for the second half of our doubleheader. Roger Hedrick there, who runs the Viking franchise. They have a good thing going here, and this one loss should in no way detract from what a successful year 1992 has been.
You go from 8 to 8 to 11 to 5. You've made some major steps.
First down at the 38-yard line. And the flag is down. Robert Green, the rookie who made the team in training camp as a free agent out of William & Mary, with the carry. You know, speaking of the Vikings, too, gents, as we get the call here from...
They were either lined up offside or came across the ball. Thomas and Randall were really crowding the ball out.
You know what they're going to start to talk about here pretty soon is the quarterback situation in Minnesota. And
5 yards. Repeat, first down.
It's not that we're adding fuel to the fire here. I mean, it's real simple. What does Joe Montana do next year? I mean, let's face it, Joe Montana, his future is in question in terms of with the 49ers. Does he perhaps, with the advent of free agency or some sort of deal being struck, come here?
He is under contract with the Al.
Well, but the contract is going to be discussed at the end of the season. Here's Green, and he takes it across the 50 to the 46. Clearly, there are a lot of things that have to be done between now and then, but just throwing it out, it makes a lot more sense than some of the other rumors you'll begin to hear soon.
Looking at it from this point, I think about Joe Montana. I'd want to go to the Washington Redskins.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that. I think the Redskins, until further notice, are going to be happy with Mark Rippon. They just signed him to a $3 million deal. But Al, your point is well made in that the Vikings are the type of a system that fits, that Montana would fit into. He's not going to go to an expansion team or a cellar dweller and get pummeled. He wants to come to a good football team with a good supporting cast that needs a quarterback. And certainly that's the case here in Minnesota.
And a coach that he knows very well in Dennis Green.
Yep. It's the question mark for any team that I think wants Joe Montana is whether or not he's a free agent or whether or not you're going to have to pay for him. And I don't mean paying for his salary, I mean paying for him in draft choices and other players. He will be 37 at the start of next year, and you really have to question how big a price, how much of your future are you willing to mortgage away to get Joe Montana for the quick fix.
Well, I'm sure Denny Green's thinking he's got a very young football team. He got rid of some old heads that were still capable of playing. He went for youth. He went for quickness. Do you change that around? Do you lose the #1 draft pick or even more to maybe go for that quick fix? I doubt it.
I don't think it's to be the final play before the 2-minute warning. Green. Well, I'll tell you one thing, gents. The road to free agency is going to go through Minneapolis. He's going to go through the chambers of Judge David Doty apparently next week.
Meeting called for Tuesday.
He's called both sides together, and again wants them to settle it on their own rather than forcing him to be the man who dictates what the new system will be. Wilbur likes whatever new system's out there. He's a free agent after this season, and that's a victory smile.
Vince Lombardi was 9-1 in postseason play. Of course, since Gibbs came into the league, and even with Chuck Noll coaching up until last year, these men have had a chance to coach in a lot more games than a Lombardi would have during his era with the expanded playoff format. But 16-4 is remarkable, and that's one of the few things the Redskins have done wrong here in the second half on a botched handoff.
And that the whistles were blowing while the ball was down on the field, so it's a dead play.
And there could be Robert Green, who probably had little or very little opportunity to take some reps last week during practice. Even there's a
5 yards, still third down.
189 yards for the Skins and 9 yards in the second half for the Vikings.
Extraordinary. 9 yards. Wow. Domination.
What a job for both those coaches. Richie Pettibone there. And seems to be so inventive with every game.
He's my choice for a one game. If I had to draw up a defensive game plan for a Super Bowl or a game I had to win, I would find Richie Pettibone's phone number and call him. One of the fine minds in the game.
Well, Gibbs' staff has sent a lot of coaches to the NFL, and Dan Henning came off the staff. Dan, of course, now back as an assistant with Detroit, and Joe Bugle. And there's Jim Hannafan, a former head coach himself, and you wonder about a Richie Pettibone.
Rod Dowhauer, he's been there before.
And, of course, Dowhauer, Hannafan, Gibbs, all disciples of Don Coryell. It was the Don Coryell passing game that really gave these guys their introduction to NFL football. But you're right, Richie Pettibone has earned his chance.
On 4th and 3, here's Green, and he needed 3, and he got just about 3.
I know one thing, if he told me to run a lap, I'd be trotting.
I want to be there when you run a lap, too.
They're going to measure here. You know, the amazing thing about Pettibone is
time me with a sundial.
People have always talked about Richie as a prospective head coach. Yet we asked him last night, when was the last time you were interviewed for a head coaching position? He said New Orleans.
Before Jim Moore.
So that's 1986.
Also, he's always caught up in the playoffs. one of the problems, and coaches want to make early moves. That's at least one of the problems.
You're right.
How about his group today? Limiting the Vikings to 148. Ooh, isn't that something?
He's a great player. He had 48 career interceptions as a player.
That's the fewest yards that the Redskins have allowed in a postseason game. You know, I mentioned, as it were, he was the defensive coordinator. Actually, he has the title of assistant head coach defense. Larry Peccatello has the title defensive coordinator.
Yeah, they all sit down together.
Yeah, just for the record.
It's a great group that Joe Gibbs has collected. And what a tribute to this football team that's gone through the adversity that they have this year with all the injuries, everything that's happened. And here they are coming in at 9-7, knocking off the Vikings at 11-5. It's a great tribute to them.
And Joe Gibbs and Dennis Green will meet at midfield. Joe Gibbs entrusted his son to Dennis Green. His son Coy plays at Stanford, recruited by Dennis Green, and the admiration that these two feel for one another is both deep and genuine.
Skins continue on. The unlikely hero today is Brian Mitchell. Tremendous day for him. California, here we come. We'll sing the Skins on their flight back to Washington in a week of preparation, and they'll play next Saturday at Candlestick Park.
And as the Redskin offensive line gets healthier and healthier, we see the byproduct of that, their ability to control the line of scrimmage. It was the difference in today's ball game, and that's a warning to the 49ers. The Redskin running game, even with a guy like Brian Mitchell, appears to be back.
And getting through this game without Ricky Sanders, their clutch third down player. Ricky Irvin's a short yardage man. They should be able to come back at fairly good health against the 49ers. So who's to say how far they might go?
Well, just the beginning of a big day for you on ABC. As you know, the Chiefs and the Chargers are warming up out west, and Jack Murphy Stadium will be the site of the kickoff at about the top of the hour. We'll come back. We'll have post-game material from here, mid-game material from New York, pre-game material from San Diego as the Redskins at the Metrodome defeat the Minnesota Vikings 24-7.
The NFC Wildcard Game. This ABC Sports exclusive has been brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By UPS, the package delivery company more companies count on. By AT&T, the right choice. And by new improved Head & Shoulders. Now it works even better to prevent flakes. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television. The Subway Mid-Game Report. Brought to you by Subway, the place where fresh is the taste. Now from New York, John Saunders.
Welcome, everyone, to the Subway Mid-Game Report. One of the two done here on ABC. The AFC Championship, or rather the AFC Wildcard Game, is coming up next. And in that game, the Kansas City Chiefs go up against the San Diego Chargers. The Chargers haven't been there for 10 years. They return this time, and they get the home game as AFC West champions from Jack Murphy Stadium. We will take you there in just about 35-minute times for the kickoff of the game. We'll also go there for previews as well on this Subway Mid-Game Report. But the game that's done, the Minnesota Vikings coming in riding a high. Sort of ironic. They knocked off Green Bay. That allowed Washington to get into the playoffs. But the Redskins don't pay him back very nicely here. Sean Salisbury here to Chris Carter. 42 yards, gets it down to about the 1-yard line, sets up the Allen touchdown, and they scored awfully easy. Ricky Irvins and Ernest Biner on the sidelines, and so Brian Mitchell would go to work here on the fake punt. Chases this one down to about the 18-yard line. And Mitchell, again, with a great day, over 200 all-purpose yards, punches this one in 17-7. You see Joe Gibbs and a little unhappy here with Ricky Sanders, or Gary Clark, rather. And then Mark Rippon hooks up with Clark. Clark said, hey, get me the ball. They do. It's a touchdown, and 24-7 is the final. The Washington Redskins knocking off the Minnesota Vikings. I am joined by Sam White, who is the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Sam, we talked about this game beforehand. You like the Vikings in the game, but beware the Washington Redskins when you reach the playoffs.
Well, you beware of the Redskins, beware of Joe Gibbs and Richie Pettibone, who's getting a lot of accolades right now and deserves them after this ball game. But, you know, we said earlier in the ball game, don't forget about the prediction that I had, okay, because I also said coaches don't like to see their team score too quickly on that first drive. I mean, if you want to score, but you like to see the team earn that thing, and so that they feel like they're still in it, the focus stays there. A little bit easy, and we saw exactly what happened. Washington got back in it.
All right, we'll talk more about the game in just a moment. But first, let's take you back out to Minneapolis for a post-game report from Frank Gifford.
Vikings 7. The Redskins will go on to meet the San Francisco 49ers next Saturday. An unlikely hero, Brian Mitchell, the run back specialist for the Washington Redskins, the hero of the hour today. Here he is, taking it in behind great blocking, and that offensive line of the Redskins really came together today. And Tim Brandt down in the locker room now with Brian Mitchell. Tim?
All right, Frank, having a tough time holding on to him even here by the locker room. They're handing out game balls inside, and they won him, but a terrific job. Did you realize you were going to play this big of a role in the game today?
No, I didn't think I'd play all that much of a role. I just thought I'd go in there to, let Ernest get a little fresh and, play a couple of plays. But when they put me in and things started working and left me in, it just gave me some confidence, and I worked as hard as I could. I didn't want to go up in there and make mistakes. I just went in there. I didn't put much pressure on myself. The linemen were doing a great job. They were giving me holes, and I was running in the backfield just like I do punt returns. I catch the ball and go straight ahead. No moves, just run as hard as I can.
Tell us first about that big punt return.
Well, the punt return, it was called inside. I was supposed to fake them to the right and start to the left and start up the middle, but it was a short punt return, and as soon as I caught it, I just took a slight step and started up the middle, cut inside the punter, and I'm 86, he came behind me and he caught me. That's something I never wanted to happen. Probably never hit the end of that one, but, I think that punt return, it gave us a big boost. Everybody was blocking. They gave me a big hole, and when they give you big holes, you have to make something happen.
There's no question they're going to dog you about that when they watch the film. But tell us about the fake punt now.
Well, the fake punt is called overload, and we ran the same play against Kansas City, and we ran it to the left, and we've been running it to the left. I think we had it up to the left for the last 3 years, and then all of a sudden this week, Wayne, they were like, they'll put a guy directly in front of me on the punt team to cover me, and there's nobody on the right side. So it was a direct snap to me. It's just like running a counter, and Matt Elliott, he was at the left guard. He came over, he blocked the guy on the end, and Monty Coleman and Ty Bowles did a great job of holding their guys inside, and I just ran the ball. It was a big hole, just run as hard as you could.
One down now, when a lot of people didn't give you much of a chance, and now it's off to Candlestick.
Well, that gives us confidence. Everybody counted us out, and hey, we're a team and we believe in ourselves, and every week, it's do or die. If we can just keep keep rolling now, we may end up in the Super Bowl again. We're not going to jump up ahead of San Francisco or anybody else. We have to play San Francisco next week, and that's all we should be thinking about. But if we can go out there and play as good or better than we played today, I think it's going to give us a good chance to try and make a run for it.
Statistically, playoff-wise, you're right up there now with Ricky Sanders, Timmy Smith's big game in the Super Bowl. You jump in there as well. Congratulations. Go get your game ball.
Thanks.
Okay, Brian. Let's go back to the booth now. Here's Frank.
Okay, Washington over the Vikings, 24-7. And we'll be coming back here for highlights in a moment. Right now, let's go to John Saunders once again in New York. John?
All right, Frank, thank you very much. And Sam, you have to wonder about the Redskins. They need somebody to step up. Mitchell does it this time. You think back to Timmy Smith in the Super Bowl. They always have someone come and step forward when they need it.
Well, somebody has to step up, but let's remind ourselves of one thing. It's a team sport. And every time you go out on that football field, somebody's going to get the game ball, so to speak. They score the touchdowns, but there's an offensive line that's creating that hole. There's a wide receiver that's going downfield, blocking what we call the touchdown block, that extra block that gives them the extra yardage down the field. It is a team sport. And then you go back to the sideline. The guy calling that play, the guy statistically trying to measure up, and it is a chess game going back and forth as to what is the best option at this point. When you put them all on the board, the guy with the chalk last can say he always has a well-designed play. It's not the play, it's when you call it. It determines whether it's a well-designed play. I think Washington did a great job on both sides. And I think Denny Green, we don't want to leave out the fact that they lost the ball game. They had a great year. Believe me, moving from 8-8 to 11-5, those are the toughest wins to get. It's like being on a diet. Those first few pounds are easy. Those last ones are tough. Both sides deserve a lot of credit.
That was a big diet that was pretty successful for Dennis Green this year. Right now, we want to head back out to the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome. But first, let us show you that the Washington Redskins next week will face the San Francisco 49ers. What a matchup in the second week. Then the winner of tomorrow's wild card game will move on next week to face the Dallas Cowboys. Right now, let's take you out to Tim Brandt at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome.
All right, guys, thank you very much with Mark Rippon. Now, Rip, it didn't seem like you took as many hits today as you did the last time you were here, which I think was one of the most physical games of the year.
Well, we had some guys just fight their guts out to go out and even play, and never mind play a tremendous ball game. Jim got banged up there, and I think in the second quarter, and so we were kind of, shifting a few guys around. Even with that, I thought the physical part of this football game is what we controlled, and that was what we felt was a key in order to win and beat a good football team.
Before we talk about you, I think we've got to mention Brian. Just talked to Brian Mitchell, and he said as many reps as he took this week, he still didn't think he was going to play that big of a role today, especially on offense.
Well, at first, you know, he hits that one out there on a punt return, and he's done so many things for us this year. He deserves a chance, and he's gotten a chance. And I think with him and Ernest running the way they're running now, you know, gives us an added dimension. You know, he can get outside. He's got that little burst that helps his football team, and you know, he got a chance, an opportunity, and sometimes that's all you can ask for. And he made the most of it and made a lot of big plays for us in a big, crucial game.
When you were in the first quarter, did you feel like you were finding your rhythm? Because you made some tremendous throws. You just missed Art on a big pass up the side that really looked like it could have been caught. But let's talk about the touchdown to Gary.
Well, outside the one throw I threw to Gary in the first half there, you know, you'd like to have that one back. They played a zone defense and fell underneath it. The underneath coverage, you know, got to Gary. Then we come back in the third quarter. I think because of 2 or 3 first downs, we hit there. You know, in their zone defense, they switched and went man-to-man on us, gave Gary an opportunity, and so we've struggled hitting our corner routes this year. And finally, you know, we got the right look and the right coverage, and Gary ran a great route, put it up for him, and that was a big play at that point in time.
Gary showed a lot of emotion in the first half and actually threw that little fit on the sidelines there. Did he say anything to you?
He wants the football. You got to love guys like that. You know, they're looking to be a part of. You know, sometimes you'll look at the film and you know, he'll be throwing his hands down, wanting the ball, and you'll be zone coverage with 2 guys sitting right by him. But most of the time, he's correct. He has a great sense for the game. He runs tremendous routes. He's been a big play guys for us this year. He's you know, stayed healthy, which has given us opportunities to work him. And you know, he just made another 3 or 4 big plays for us today that helped us enable us to beat a good, like I say, a good Vikings football team.
Mark, it's been an interesting year for you, and I know one as a competitor you are. You fought through it. At times the fans were tough on you, and it's been an up and down year. But can you put this win in perspective after what's taken place the last 3 months?
Well, it really is too early to start, you know, saying, hey, I told you so or anything like that. We got a lot of football left, hopefully, and it's back to the drawing board again. You know, we looked at this playoffs and we felt the one advantage we had was, you know, we got some guys in this team that got 14, 15 playoff wins, you know, and you look across the board, you look at Minnesota, a lot of the guys there, his first opportunity. You look at a team like Dallas, New Orleans, and Philadelphia, that a lot of them don't even have a playoff win. So we feel that's an advantage for us, and we're going up a team next week that's got a bunch of playoff wins too. So our work will be cut out for us, and you know, it's going to be difficult to play them at their place, but that's one of the things that we feel we have in our corners. We got some guys that have experience in these game situations, and I think it pays off.
Well, go in and enjoy this one, Rip.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. You bet.
Okay. Right now, let's go back to New York, and here is John Saunders.
All right, Sam, thank you very much. And Sam, as you look at this matchup next week against San Francisco, Washington playing San Francisco, if you're George Seifert, you're sitting back and saying, wait a minute, I have to play the defending Super Bowl champions in my first playoff game of the year.
Yeah, right off the bat. And really now we're going to take away that experience versus not so much experience factor that played a little bit of a role in this particular ball game. If you think about this game, Minnesota and Washington, I won't call it a sloppy first half, but there was some sparring going on. There was some nervous drops of passes and things that happened. Second half, the experience came through for the Redskins. Now they go to San Francisco, and they play a veteran team that's used to winning all the time. They won 10 or more for the last 10 straight years. And Washington experienced a winner. San Francisco experienced a winner. Let's hope that the best team wins. There's no weather problem. There's nothing that enters into it. The best team that day.
All right, it should be a great matchup next week. When we come back, we will continue on the Subway mid-game report. We'll go back to Minneapolis and look ahead to Game 2 of our doubleheader. They will host the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the second half of our doubleheader. Bobby Beathard was obviously looking on as the Washington Redskins won their game in the NFC wildcard. Beathard having an interest there, obviously, was general manager for 2 Super Bowls with the Washington Redskins. This time around, he has returned to California, now with the San Diego Chargers. And Bobby Beathard is an architect of a winner. Stan Humphries is a guy he brought over also from the East Coast, has done a